Chapter 490. Our parents are in Huaqing. Our family and friends are in Huaqing. We were born in Huaqing, grew up in Huaqing, and went to primary and secondary school in Huaqing. We met a very important man in our lives in Huaqing. Jiang Qin said sadly. There was a moment of silence, and then there was a tsunami of exclamations. Sweetheart, who is that man? Who is that man? Sweetheart, are you guys in love? Please don't, goddess, you've broken my heart. Who is that man? Wang Ku, the manager of Arasima backstage, was really anxious. He grabbed the shoulders of the staff next to him and shouted, "What are they talking about? What are they talking about? Ask her to stop." No one asked Jiang Qin and Wang Lin to stop, because Xianxia said that they were completely free on the stage. When they stood on the stage was theirs. Wang Lin looked at Jiang Qin with a surprised expression. She didn't expect Jiang Qin to say that at this time. Jiang Qin's voice was a little sad. He said, "I don't mean to say it on purpose. It's just that when I return to this city, I can't help but smell his scent. You must not know that the reason why Wang Lin and I took this path, the reason why we were able to stand on the stage of classical music, and the reason why we worked hard for such a goal, is also greatly related to him. I don't know if he came to our concert. Maybe he didn't. But I know he is in Huaqing, so I feel very at ease." The fans below the stage were even more crazy. They kept shouting Jiang Qin's name and asked Jiang Qin who the man was. "He is my teacher," Jiang Qin said with a sly smile. "A teacher who influenced my life." Near the front of the stage, Sister Li looked at her daughter's expression and sighed deeply. Jiang Dahai held his wife's chubby hand and said, "The child has grown up and has her own ideas. Let her be." "I know," Sister Li said with some annoyance. "I'm not against Qin and Fang Yan being together. Honey was now an adult, and she had the right to choose her own life. What I'm worried about is, where is Fang Yan now? I haven't seen him for a few years. I called my daughter to ask, but she didn't say anything. I don't know what happened. Fang Yan is a good kid." Jiang Dahai looked at Sister Li with a puzzled expression and said, "Didn't you dislike Fang Yan before? You even chased her out for no reason. Why did you change your attitude now?" "What do you know?" Auntie Li said angrily. "I didn't like Fang Yan in the past because she was still young. We couldn't let her be with Fang Yan. Now that our dear one has grown up, why can't he treat our dear one well? Look at Honey's pitiful face. You weren't this sad when I rejected you when you confessed to me, right?" Cough, cough, cough. Jiang Dahai coughed violently. The topic of his wife was too explosive, and he couldn't take it anymore. "I really envy you guys," Jiang Qin said with a smile. "You guys can live in the same city as him, look at the same sky, breathe the same air, but I have to fly around every day and the time I can stay in Huaqing is too little. If you see him, you must say hello to me. Say hello to Mr. Fang, Jiang Qin said she misses you." Jiang Qin and Wang Lin bowed to the audience below the stage again, and they left amidst the reluctance and shouts of the audience below the stage. Fang Yan didn't expect that there would be such a scene at the end of the concert. Jiang Qin, this fearless girl, was really capable of doing anything. But in this way, wouldn't he be in the headlines tomorrow? Fang Yan completely believed in the paparazzi's sense of smell and ability. Jiang Qin said the words Mr. Fang, and Jiang Qin had been in a scandal with him before she became famous. At that time, it even became negative news in the newspapers. As long as those people had the intention to find out, they would definitely be able to find these clues. Fang Yan just wanted to be a quiet little security guard. The concert ended and the crowd began to disperse. Lu Yi's parents stood up and looked at Fang Yan. They wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. Fang Yan took the initiative to walk over and shook hands with Lu Yi's father. He said with a smile, "Take care of yourself." "Thank you, teacher." "Thank you." Lu Yi's father thanked him profusely. "You have a good daughter," Fang Yan said with a smile, turned around and walked out of the private room. He went to the private room next door, ready to talk to Liang Dechang and young Master Fu about professional issues such as the sense of music and the multiple forms of expression of classical music, but found that there was no one inside. They left early. Fang Yan's eyes turned cold and he quickly walked downstairs. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin retreated backstage. Yuan Lin took Jiang Qin's hand and said, "Sweetheart, why did you say it in front of so many people? Aren't you afraid?" All of a sudden, I felt something. Jiang Qin was a little depressed and said in a low voice, "We have worked so hard and risked our lives for the past few years. We want to show him our best side. We want him to know our talent and let him recognize our excellence. But when we have the opportunity to stand in the center of the stage and have the ability to prove ourselves to him, he doesn't know where he went. So what if today's concert is a success? I still feel empty in my heart." Lin, even if we do it, even if we really bring classical music to the world stage, but what's the point of that for me? Sigh, Yuan Lin sighed softly. "Let's go see Mr. Fong tomorrow. We'll treat him to a meal, treat him to a drink, even if we don't do anything, we'll just watch him quietly and accompany him." "Okay," Jiang Qin said with red eyes. "We'll go see him tomorrow. Wherever he goes, we'll go there. We'll pay for his meals and pour for his drinks. He doesn't say anything and does nothing. We'll just sit beside him and say nothing and do nothing. Just like when we were in Swallow Dock." The two girls made such an agreement, and their moods became cheerful again. Wang Ku walked over and hugged the two girls of Arasima warmly. She said with a smile, "Sweetheart, Lin, congratulations. Today's performance was amazing. The whole Huaqing will be proud of you, thank you," Yuan Lin said with a smile. "If only there wasn't a last performance." Wang Ku said, "This was a subtle reminder and a warning." Jiang Qin said softly, "Sister Wang, I'm sorry for making things difficult for you." It's okay." Wang Ku said with a smile. "What's there to make things difficult for? Isn't it my job? I just want to talk to him." Jiang Qin said, "I think he'll definitely hear it in this way." Wang Ku didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She said, "My lady, not only Mr. Fong heard it. The whole Huaqing heard it. Just wait and see. Tomorrow morning, all the newspapers in Huaqing will be filled with news about you. I don't care." Sister Xia Tian said before, "Don't care about what the outside world thinks. We just need to focus on our own music. Don't worry about it. You just need to focus on your music. Don't you have Sister Wang to do the rest? If Sister Wang can't do it well, there's still President Xia, right? Am I right?" At this moment, a group of people walked toward the dressing room backstage. The security guards went forward to stop them. The leader, a man with a buzz cut, slapped them in the face and scolded, "Are you blind? Even I can't go in?" The security guard was slapped in the face. When he was about to fight back, the two bodyguards in black behind the man with the brush cut rushed over. One on the left and the other on the right, they rushed into the crowd and knocked down the security guards who were in charge of guarding the place. Clang! The man with a buzz cut pushed open the door of the dressing room and saw Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin chatting inside. He couldn't help but be amused. He turned around and said to the man with glasses behind him, "Young Master Fu, it seems that you have good luck with women today. I was worried that they would run away. If that was the case, it would take some time. Now they are still here. Shall we talk to them now?" Fu Lei adjusted the glasses on the bridge of his nose and said with a smile, "Be polite." "Hey, got it," Liang Dechang said with a smile. He walked up to Wang Ku, took out a business card from his pocket and handed it over. He said, "I'm Liang Deng, the chairman of the Dechang Group. You can easily find out what I do as long as you go out and ask around." Wang Ku usually had Xia Tian's support, so she really didn't take Liang Dechang seriously. She stood in front of Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin with her slightly plump body and said with a smile, "Young Master Liang, why have so many of you barged in? What business do you have?" Liang Dechang pointed at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and asked, "Are you their agent?" "Yes." "Wang Ku." "Wang Ku, let's discuss something. I have a distinguished guest who came from afar and likes watching their show. I want to take them out for a midnight snack. Why don't you name a price?" Wang Ku smiled coldly and said, "Young Master Liang, I'm afraid I can't agree to this. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin have worked hard for most of the night and are very tired now. They just said that they wanted to go back to sleep. Why don't we find another opportunity?" Slap. Wang Ku was also slapped in the face. Liang Dechang pointed at Wang Ku and shouted, Who do you think you are? Don't be shameless. I've already said it today. If you agree, I'll take them. If you don't agree, I'll still take them. I want to see what you can do to me. Ah, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin hurried forward to support Wang Ku to prevent her from falling to the ground. Jiang Qin took a step forward and said, "You can go. We won't go out with you for a midnight snack." Little girl, this kind of thing is not up to you to decide. Liang Decheng laughed arrogantly. The people that Liang Decheng, want to take care of have never failed. This sentence is very imposing. I like it. A thin man stood at the door and said with a smile, "I'm the same as you. The people I want to hit have never failed." Chapter 491. Hearing that familiar voice, Jiang Qin was stunned for a moment. She thought that it was her illusion. Just like the countless previous experiences, she would hear Fang Yan's voice when she was in danger, she would hear Fang Yan's voice when she was tired from playing the piano, she would hear Fang Yan's voice when she was shopping alone while drinking tea, and she would hear Fang Yan's voice when she woke up from her dreams. Could it be the same as those mistakes? Another beautiful illusion? Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked over with a puzzled expression. When they found that the thin man standing at the door was indeed the Fang Yan that they were thinking about, their faces immediately bloomed with a moving smile. Mr. Fang came, Mr. Fang really came. Mr. Fang came to enjoy their concert. Mr. Fang listened to their singing and watched their performance. Mr. Fang knew about Jiang Qin's confession on stage and the deep-rooted longing. Mr. Fang. Jiang Qin was shy and happy at the same time. Her eyes were red as she shouted Fang Yan's name. "Mr. Fang, you're here." Yuan Lin cried in surprise. "Why didn't you tell us? We were worried that you didn't have time." "Mr. Fang? Fang Yan?" Wang Ke looked at Fang Yan seriously. He was a handsome man. However, good-looking men were a dime a dozen in the entertainment industry, so it was not unusual. However, Wang Ke did not dare to neglect this young man. He was not only the man that the two little devils, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, kept talking about, but also Miss Xia Tian's close friend. It was said that Miss Xia Tian would take the initiative to visit their home every year during the Spring Festival. Just based on the last point, she had to give him enough respect and enthusiasm. Wang Ke covered her cheek that was slapped by Liang Decheng and took the initiative to greet Fang Yan and said, "Mr. Fang, I'm Wang Ke, the agent of Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. These people suddenly broke in and said they wanted to take Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to eat supper. I refused their rude request, but they still hit me." "Hello, Miss Wang." Fang Yan greeted Wang Ke and said, "Don't worry, they can't take anyone away. They can't leave." Perhaps it was because Fang Yan's words were too arrogant, or maybe it was because Fang Yan's expression was too serious when he said it. Liang Decheng and his companions laughed. "Young Master Liang, did you hear that? He said we can't take anyone away, no one can leave. Ha! It's so funny, they don't care about us at all. Young Master Liang, this person is very interesting. You can't kill him in one go, you have to keep him and play with him slowly. Who does he think he is? Teacher? Ha! No wonder the quality of students nowadays is getting worse. It's because of such a stupid teacher." Fu Lei didn't laugh. He looked at Fang Yan strangely, guessing what relationship he had with the legendary man. "Isn't it funny?" Fang Yan asked with a smile. "It's too funny." Liang Decheng applauded and said, "My brothers said, we can't kill you too early. That won't be fun." "Your words have reminded me of something." Fang Yan walked toward Liang Decheng step by step and said, "If the game is very fun, it's best not to clear it in one go. Otherwise, it's easy to feel down." The smile on Liang Decheng's face became cold, and he stared at Fang Yan with a gaze as vicious as a vulture. He knew what Fang Yan wanted to do, but he didn't care at all, because what Fang Yan wanted to do was also what he wanted to do. Without saying anything, the two bodyguards behind Liang Deng surrounded Fang Yan from both sides. They were the ones who made a move against the security guards outside and got rid of all the people who were blocking the way. Hu, the man in black on the left, didn't say a word and punched at Fang Yan's left temple. The temple was an important point of the human body, but it was also the weak point of the human body. If it was important, it was weak. Fang Yan could sense the strength he used. If this punch was completely hit, It might cause the temple to explode, serious injuries or even death. He wanted to kill Fang Yan, but Fang Yan didn't hold back. Fang Yan also punched. It was a punch later than his punch, and a punch lighter than his punch. It was also a punch that was even more casual than the one he had thrown. However, the punch arrived first. Fang Yan punched out and his fist fiercely hit the bridge of the black-clothed man's nose. Crack! The man in black's nose broke, and the bones in his face caved in. His body flew out, and blood sprayed in the air like a red fountain. At the same time that the man in black on the left flew out, the man in black on the right kicked at Fang Yan's crotch. This kid was even more vicious. He wanted to destroy the roots of Fang Yan's descendants. Bang! Fang Yan clamped his legs, and the foot that the man in black kicked over was sandwiched between his legs. The man in black exerted all his strength, but the foot didn't move as if it was inlaid. He couldn't move his lower body, and his upper body rushed toward Fang Yan. An uppercut went straight for Fang Yan's eyes. When Fang Yan's eyes hurt, he would naturally let go of his legs. Fang Yan stood where he was without moving. His left hand punched out lightly. Bang! There was a muffled sound. Because one of the man in black's legs was clamped by Fang Yan, his body was fixed in place, and he couldn't fly. His upper body fell backward, and then he was pulled back at an even faster speed. He looked at Fang Yan in horror, and then he opened his mouth and screamed. The man in black's arm made cracking sounds, as if every inch of the bones in his arm was breaking. "You have bad breath," Fang Yan said. But Fang Yan punched out, and the man in black finally broke free as he wished. However, his body fell heavily to the ground, and then he couldn't get up again. This was what it truly meant to be unstoppable. This was an instant kill in terms of realm. Fang Yan looked at Liang Dechang and asked with a smile, "The mighty young master Liang only brings these 2 rookie bodyguards when you go out?" "They're not rookies," Liang Dechang said through gritted teeth. "How could they be rookie bodyguards? One of them was a famous fighter in Huaqing's MMA world, and was only recruited by him after he became famous. The other was a member of Mount Song's Shaolin Temple's martial arts team, and used to perform martial arts on stages all over the world. Later, because he couldn't stand poverty, he retired early and became his loyal confidant. Just now, it was the 2 of them who took care of those annoying bodyguards. At that time, they were full of power and gave people endless confidence. How could they be defeated so easily now?" Fang Yan smiled and said, "These bodyguards aren't rookies. Looks like your definition of rookies is very special." Fang Yan walked toward Liang Dechang again and said, "Do you have any other rookie bodyguards? Or rather, do you have any bodyguards who aren't rookies? If there aren't any, I'm going to beat someone up. I just said, I've never failed to beat someone up I wanted to. You won't disappoint me, right?" Liang Dechang stared at Fang Yan fiercely and said, "Brat, do you know who I am?" "I know. Liang Dechang. A bastard who's willing to be a pimp in order to please his master." Fang Yan said aloud, "Only people who beat people up need to announce their name. People who get beaten up don't need to let everyone in the world know who they are, right? I don't care who you are. If you dare to touch a hair on me, I promise I'll let your corpse lie on the street." "Really? So I'm dead for sure?" Fang Yan pointed at the gauze wrapped around Liang Dechang's forehead and said, "I threw that piece of wood. How do you feel now?" "So it's you." Liang Dechang's anger soared again, and he pointed at Fang Yan and scolded, "I said, I'll make you wish you were dead." Huh. Fang Yan slapped Liang Dechang's face and asked, "Is this the feeling of living worse than death that you said?" Arisima's concert was over, so Fang Yan didn't have to worry about bringing adverse effects to them. Fang Yan was already furious, and now he witnessed them running to the backstage locker room to snatch people. How could he be merciful? Fang Yan did use a lot of strength in this slap. Liang Dechang only felt a buzzing sound in his ears, and his mouth, nose, and ears were all bleeding, but his mind was blank and he couldn't hear what Fang Yan said. "Mr. Fang," Wang Ku was shocked. Although she had Xia Tian's support, she wasn't afraid of anyone's provocation. She had never hit someone like Fang Yan did. As the saying goes, a powerful dragon can't suppress a local snake. No matter how powerful Xia Tian was in Yanjing City, this was Hua City. If the local snakes in Hua City wanted to ruin your plans and cause trouble for you, you would really be suppressed everywhere. It was easy to see the king of hell, but difficult to deal with the little devils. But Fang Yen slapped him again and said, being humiliated by me to the point where you want to die but can't. Is this the feeling of living worse than death that you can't forget? Pa. Fang Yen slapped him again and said, can you still hear me? It's okay if you can't, as long as you know you're still being beaten. When Fang Yen was about to slap him again, Fu Lei finally spoke and shouted, Mr. Fang, wait a minute. Pa. Fang Yen pulled his hand back down in midair, and then looked up at Fu Lei and asked, what did you just say? Liang Decheng suffered another solid slap, and when he was about to fall to the ground in a daze, he was supported by his friends behind him. Fu Lei was stunned for a while and said, I said, please wait a minute, Mr. Fang, but it doesn't matter now. Then can I continue? Fang Yen said with a smile. He walked towards Liang Decheng again. He had only just warmed up. How could he finish so quickly? Chapter 492. Wait, wait, wait. Fu Lei repeatedly shouted for him to stop. He stood in front of Fang Yen to prevent Fang Yen from beating Liang Decheng, who had lost his ability to speak, and said, Mr. Fang is Teacher Fang Yen? Fang Yen was almost amused by this kid. He looked at Fu Lei and said, this is a very unique way of chatting up people. Yes, I am Fang Yen. I used to be a teacher, but now I am a security guard. Fu Lei did not laugh, but looked at Fang Yen with a more serious expression and said, Mr. Fang and young Master Jiang are old friends? Young Master Jiang? Are you talking about that idiot Jiang Junling? Fang Yen asked with a sneer. He didn't like people saying that he and Jiang Junling were old friends. It made it seem like he had absorbed a lot of light just by being with him. As soon as this remark came out, countless people present gasped. They didn't know who Fang Yen was, but it was impossible for them not to know who Jiang Junling was. A son should be like Jiang Junling, and an adopted son must be like Qin Yitian. These words were too loud and too intimidating. Whether they had entered that level, come into contact with the characters of that realm or the two protagonists of this sentence, it did not affect their worship and fear of these two characters. What kind of person was Jiang Junling? They knew very well in their hearts. What kind of person was Qin Yitian? They also knew very well in their hearts. Their circle of friends was loose and hierarchical. It was difficult for a millionaire's friend to be a billionaire. In the same way, it was difficult for them to be friends with people in the circle of Jiang Junling and Qin Yitian. From their standpoint, they did not dare to offend those two legendary figures. However, this guy who was called Little Teacher by the Arasima group actually said, Jiang Junling, that idiot. Just based on this sentence alone, if he didn't have enough strength to protect himself, maybe they could go to the Pearl River to retrieve his body tomorrow morning. However, he said it out loud, and his face was full of disdain, as if it was shameful to be associated with someone like Jiang Junling. If they were to say that this fellow was just some subject teacher from a school in Huaqing who relied on his looks to deceive girls, they would never believe it. But who was this man? He had never heard of a wealthy family with the surname Fang in Huaqing. There were no wealthy families with the surname Fang in the capital either. Fu Lei's expression changed drastically as if he had heard something inconceivable. Very quickly, his expression returned to normal. He looked at Fang Yen with a smile and said, So it's young Master Fang. I've heard so much about you. Your name is like thunder in my ears. I didn't expect that we would be like a flood crashing into a Dragon King's temple today. One family clashed with another family, young Master Fang. This is a misunderstanding. Today, I heard the two young friends from the Arasima group perform and was shocked. Decheng saw that I was delighted and wanted to bridge the gap between us to help me fulfill a wish. We wanted to be friends with these two young friends, but because the attitude of our subordinates was too bad, it caused unnecessary conflicts and misunderstandings. Fu Lei glanced at Liang Decheng and said, Decheng is a bit too impatient, but he's forthright and loyal. He's not a bad person deep down. Young Master Fang has already punished them. Why don't we just forget about today's matter? We'll prepare a generous gift to apologize to the two young friends from the Arasima group. How about that? Fang Yan looked at Fu Lei and asked, "You know me?" I often heard about the interesting stories between young Master Fang and young Master Jiang even when I was far away in a cold and desolate place. I've always wanted to get to know a young talent like young Master Fang if I had the chance. I didn't expect the hero to be right in front of me, but I didn't recognize him. What a sin. Fu Lei's words were very vague. But the meaning behind his words was very clear. Since you've already offended young Master Jiang Junling, don't provoke us anymore. It would be good if everyone was friendly. When we teased girls, you pretended not to see it. When you hooked up with innocent women, we turned a blind eye. Isn't this the way people live in the circle? Hearing that I even dared to slap Jiang Junling, are you starting to feel guilty? Fang Yan asked with a smile. And then regret provoking my friend? Young Master Fang, Fu Lei felt that Fang Yan didn't know how to speak properly. How could he say such a thing on the spot? Luckily I don't know you. Fang Yan said happily. Oh, it's so lively here? A bright and heroic voice sounded from the door. Fang Yan turned around and saw Lan Shanggu pushing Lu Shu, who was in a wheelchair, into the locker room. Fu Lei saw Lan Shanggu and shouted happily, "Brother Lan, you're here too? If I knew earlier, we could have arranged to meet in the same room to drink wine and listen to classical music. It's a great fun." Lan Shanggu ignored Fu Lei and looked at Fang Yan with a smile. He said, "I don't have anything to do tonight, so I invited Cripple Lu to watch the classical music concert from Arisima." Lan Shanggu looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and said with a smile, "After all, the two beauties from Arisima are also from Huaqing. It's natural for us to support people from our hometown. Jiang Qin, Yuan Lin, I'm your die-hard fan. You have to give me an autograph later. Otherwise, I'll leave Cripple Lu outside the changing room and not let you out. You won't be so cruel to a disabled person, right?" Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at each other. They didn't understand the relationship between Lan Shanggu, Fang Yan, and Fu Lei. They just smiled and didn't say anything. Lu Shu's face turned slightly cold. He said, "Lan Shanggu, one day, I'll make you shut your stinky mouth completely." "Cripple Lu, do you want to kill me now?" "It's not easy for you to kill me, but I can kill you easily," Lan Shanggu said carelessly. He didn't take Lu Shu's threat seriously at all. Lan Shanggu walked in front of Fang Yan and stood shoulder to shoulder with him. He stared at Fu Lei and the others with the same hatred. He asked, "What happened here? Which blind guy offended our young Master Fang again?" "It's a misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding. Brother Lan, please explain to young Master Fang that we just want to make friends with the two girls from Arisima. We don't have any other intentions." Fu Lei didn't expect Lan Shanggu to also come to this concert. But this was also good. The Fu clan and the Lan clan had some relationship, and the two clans often had business dealings. With a heavyweight like Lan Shanggu helping to slow things down, presumably Fang Yan wouldn't dare to kill them again. As for Liang Decheng, this kind of guy with bad character, he should just treat this beating as a lesson. Why did he talk to me about Arisima for no reason? Now that he brought trouble to my doorstep, I'm already being kind by not letting him bear the responsibility. Lan Shanggu sneered and said, "Fu Lei, do you think I don't know your tricks? If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're wrong, you have to admit it. It's one thing to do something wrong, but you still have to bear the responsibility after doing something wrong. If you should apologize, you have to apologize. If you should compensate for the loss, you have to compensate for the loss." Lan Shanggu naturally had the intention of interceding on Fu Lei's behalf. He wanted Fu Lei to apologize and compensate for the loss. These were just some insignificant punishments. Because he knew very well that if Fang Yan took action, things naturally wouldn't be so easy to solve. Lu Shu sneered and said, "Using young Master Fang's matter as a gift, Lan Shanggu, you really have a good plan." Fang Yan glanced at Lan Shanggu and said, "No. Things shouldn't be handled like this." Fang Yan pointed at Fu Lei and said, "Just now in the VIP room on the second floor, he and Liang Decheng were discussing how to get the two girls from Arisima. I'm too embarrassed to repeat those obscene words." Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin looked at each other, and their faces were smeared with a layer of red. They knew what those obscene words Fang Yan said were referring to. Although they had the protection of Xia Tian, they rarely encountered situations where they were bullied. But occasionally, some words that reached their ears would still make them extremely angry. But this was the ecology of the entertainment circle. Even Xia Tian couldn't change the rules and purify the environment. He could only ensure that the people around him wouldn't be assimilated. I had already punished them at that time. I didn't expect them to be so daring that they forcefully ran into the room after the concert to snatch people. Fang Yan pointed at Jiang Qin and Wang Lin and said, "Unfortunately, the Mr. Fang they were talking about on stage was me. They were both my students." "Young master, what do you mean?" The smile on Lan Shanggu's face disappeared. He looked at Fang Yan with a serious expression and asked aloud. Fang Yan walked towards Fu Lei step by step, and Fu Lei's body began to retreat. He had seen Fang Yan's skills and knew that he was far from being his opponent. He originally thought that those young masters who had been fawning over him would stand up and help him, but even when he retreated to the corner of the wall, he didn't touch anyone's body. Those guys had already retreated to the sides. Fang Yan grabbed Fu Lei's neck and lifted his body up from the ground. Fu Lei's face turned purple and his body couldn't move at all. Clang! Fang Yan's knee ruthlessly attacked Fu Lei's lower abdomen. Fu Lei's body curled up like a shrimp. His face turned black and purple, as if he had serious food poisoning. His mouth couldn't speak, but a large amount of food and liquid flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Fang Yan was worried that the compound would flow to the back of his hand, so he threw Fu Lei's body on the ground with some disdain. Then he kicked over and over again. Bang, bang, bang. Every time Fang Yan kicked out, Fu Lei would scream along with it. His body curled up on the ground, his hands tightly hugging the important parts of his head. He looked even more miserable than a beggar. Every time Fang Yan kicked out, the bodies of the young masters of Hua City who were watching from the side would also tremble. The person lying on the ground was the young master Fu Lei, whom they had been trying their best to fawn over. In the blink of an eye, he was being kicked and beaten like a dog. This Mr. Fang, what kind of pervert was he? Did he know the rules? Did he have any dignity? Too unfriendly. Bang, bang, bang. Fang Yan kicked more than 10 times until Fu Lei lay on the ground motionless. Then, he turned to look at Lan Shanggu and asked, "What did you say just now? What is the relationship between you, friends?" Chapter 493. What is the relationship between you two, friends? He saw him make a move, saw him choke, saw him kick a person to the point where it was unclear whether he was dead or alive. Lan Shanggu suddenly felt a strong sense of crisis. This was Fang Yan's response to his forceful intercession and his expression of dissatisfaction with his attitude. Fang Yan was dissatisfied with himself because he had stretched his hand too far. Was it just because of this? It probably wasn't that simple, right? Or did he also know about the flirting between the Lan family and the Jiang family? Lan Shanggu felt bitter. At the Blue Mountain Club, Jiang Junling said in front of him that he was going to visit the Lan family's old master. Jiang Junling didn't break his promise and went to visit the Lan family with generous gifts the next afternoon. The Lan family also secretly gave Jiang Junling the highest treatment. The Lan family's old master, who hadn't seen guests for a long time, personally accompanied Jiang Junling to drink tea in the study. Because of Lan Shanggu's special status in the Lan family, he was lucky enough to stay in the study and become one of the companions. Jiang Junling once again proposed the idea of joining forces with the Lan family to invest in Longtime Group. The Lan family's old master agreed after a moment of hesitation. Both sides would invest $1 billion and work together to expand Longtime Group. Then they would share the fruits of victory. In Longtime Group, the Lan family would be one of the 3 major shareholders. With the Jiang family, Jiang Zhulu would exercise the same important rights. Jiang Junling expressed his admiration for the Lan family's foresight and thanked the old master for encouraging and guiding the young people. Both sides had a good talk. Jiang Junling left after dinner and Lan Shanggu immediately entered the old master's study to talk to his secret agent. Lan Shanggu strongly requested the old master to give up the cooperation plan with the Jiang family and work hard to play the role of a pure seller of Chaoyan technology. The old master had a different view on this. He thought that the Lan family shouldn't put all their eggs in the same basket. If the Lan family invested in Longtime Group, they would become one of the 3 major shareholders of Longtime Group, a new energy industry. With the vigorous development of the energy industry, the Lan family would become the decision-maker in this field and not just the errant slave of a certain family. Yes, the Lan family was just a lower-tier seller of Chaoyan technology. Chaoyan technology could use you, but they could also kick you away. The old master's worries were not without reason. What's more, if Longtime Group was really successful, it could also create pressure on Chaoyan technology, increasing their own weight in front of Chaoyan technology and Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga. Most importantly, any business that could make money was a good business, so why not? What the old master said made sense, but Lan Shanggu knew that things weren't that simple. With Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga's personalities, how could they possibly allow the Lan clan to be two-timing? Lan Shanggu and the old master had conflicting views and a fierce conflict broke out between them. Lan Shanggu cared about the reactions of Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga, but the old master cared more about the support of the Jiang family. At that time, the old master sat on the armchair, looked at Lan Shanggu and said something meaningful. No matter how hard Fang Yan works, no matter how Chaoyan develops, the Fang family can't be the Jiang family, and Chaoyan technology can't be the Jiang family's business. Yes, the old master didn't think that the young and energetic Fang Yan had any chance of winning against the 1,000-year-old Jiang family. This had nothing to do with ability or talent. He just lost in terms of time. Lan Shanggu was the future heir of the Lan family, but his future had yet to come. The importance of Lan Shanggu in the Lan family was decided by the old master, and what the old master decided was what the Lan family decided. Therefore, the matter of the Lan family and the Jiang family jointly investing in Longtime Group was being discussed and carried out in secret. Now, had Fang Yan raised a big stick to beat them up? During the process of Fang Yan beating up young Master Fu Lei, the entire changing room was silent. Other than heavy breathing, no one said anything or made a sound to stop it. Lu Shu sat steadily on the wheelchair, a cold smile on his lips. No one knew if he was mocking Fu Lei's stupidity or the cleverness of this matter. The other young masters' faces were as white as paper, and the timid one's legs were trembling. Even standing straight was a difficult task for them. Every time Fang Yan kicked Wang Ku, the manager of Planet Blue, his heart would tremble. When Fang Yan was done, her body stopped trembling. She had been in the entertainment industry for many years and had seen all kinds of people. But she had never met a man with a personality like Fang Yan. This kind of person had a vicious mouth and was ruthless. He didn't know how to compromise, didn't know how to be mellow, and wasn't suitable to be in the industry. It was easy to offend people. Wang could turn to look at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, wanting to persuade them to stay away from this dangerous man. But when she saw Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's excited faces and stars in their eyes, she gave up the idea. They probably wouldn't listen to any bad things she said about Fang Yan. Aren't they your friends? Fang Yan looked at Lan Shanyu and asked again. What was the point of asking such a question after the fight? Or rather, it had a deeper meaning than asking such a question before the fight. Lan Shanyu laughed and said, "To be honest, young master, the Fu family is our business partner. The Fu family has been operating in Mo Bay for a long time, and they have quite a few mines with good quality. The Lan family imports ores from the Fu family. Because of this, Fu Lei and I have known each other since we were young. But we have been too busy these years, so we haven't seen each other much. I didn't expect him to do such an animal thing tonight. If not for young master's timely discovery, the 2 classical music masters of our City of Flowers would have been destroyed by him. Such an idiot, even if young master taught him a lesson, it wouldn't be enough. When I go back, I will definitely call Uncle Fu and ask him to teach Fu Lei a lesson." Fang Yan looked at Lan Shanyu and said gently, "Fu Lei is your good friend, it's natural for you to speak up for him. If you don't help your good friend when he is in trouble, then I will start to suspect you of being a heartless person. But you didn't speak up at the right time. He just made a mistake and came to cause trouble for my 2 friends. If I let him go because of one sentence from you and let this matter go, isn't the cost of his mistake too low? Just because he knows Lan Shanyu, he can do whatever he wants? If he knows Lan Shanyu in every city, does that mean he can do this in every city? I didn't think it through and let young master laugh at me. Lan Shanyu apologized sincerely. That's a little harsh, Fang Yan said with a smile. I will teach him a lesson and let him receive the punishment he deserves. I will let him know that if he does bad things, he must be prepared to be caught. Lan Shanyu's heart skipped a beat. Fang Yan had already said it so clearly. If he still didn't understand what he meant, then he wouldn't deserve to be one of the 4 talents of watching. A prodigal who repents is more valuable than gold. All mistakes can be corrected, Lan Shanyu said in a low voice. I believe Fu Lei already understands this. Not only did Fu Lei understand, but he also understood. Since Fang Yan didn't say it clearly, it meant that he didn't want to fall out with the Lan family. This way, he could still put in some effort in the middle. If Fang Yan directly asked why the Lan family wanted to cooperate with the Jiang family, it meant that there was no turning back. I also hope that he can understand. Fang Yan nodded, then said self-deprecatingly, after being a teacher for a year, I've developed a bad habit of educating people. That's not good. How is this educating people? Young master's words are priceless advice. Those without connections won't have the chance to learn, Lan Shanyu said fawningly. Those who understand will think it's priceless advice. Those who don't understand will think it's full of nonsense. Fang Yan pointed at Fu Lei and said, all right, since Shanyu has spoken, I have to give you face. I won't break his arms and legs, but I won't destroy his life. Take him away. Thank you, young master, Lan Shanyu said with a smile. He waved his hand, and 2 black-clothed men immediately rushed over from behind, picked up Fu Lei from the ground, and walked out. Lan Shanyu looked at Fang Yan and said, young master, I won't disturb you anymore. Go do what you need to do, Fang Yan said with a smile. Lan Shanyu was still in the mood to greet Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and said, Jiang Qin, Yuan Lin, you guys owe me an autograph. I'll remember this. I won't forget, Yuan Lin said with a smile. Lan Shanyu walked in front of the willow tree and said, Cripple, are you coming with me? The willow tree chuckled and said, the exciting show is over, what's the point of staying? Go, of course I'm leaving. Thus, Lan Shanyu pushed the willow tree and left. The other young masters supported Liang Dechang and followed closely behind. Everyone was very careful when passing by Fang Yan, afraid that they would accidentally anger Fang Yan, and then they would become Liang Dechang or Fu Lei. This guy was really ruthless. When everyone had left, Wang Ke looked at Fang Yan with a smile and said, Mr. Fang, thank you for helping us out. If you hadn't appeared in time, I really don't know what would have happened. You see, it's already very late, and Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin have been busy for the whole night. Why don't we let these 2 girls go back to the hotel to rest? Fang Yan felt that what Wang Ke said was very reasonable and was about to nod in agreement when Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin ran over and hugged Fang Yan's arms. Jiang Qin looked at Fang Yan with a sweet smile and said, Mr. Fang, I'm not tired. I'll go with you wherever you go. Yuan Lin also said with a smile, I really want to eat Huaqing's seafood barbecue. Why don't we treat Mr. Fang to something? Wang Ke's face was full of helplessness and said, then I'll arrange for the driver to send you there. Chapter 494. I'm not dead, am I? Fu Lei turned over his body and immediately cried out in pain. He felt like all the bones in his body were about to fall apart. His stomach, shoulders, back, buttocks, and head, every part of his body was in pain, excruciating pain. Knowing pain means you won't die for now. An eerie voice rang out beside him. Fu Lei climbed up from his seat and saw Lan Shangu sitting in the front row. He couldn't help but grin and said, Brother Lan, only when I see you do I know I'm still alive. That bastard was really ruthless, he almost killed me. There's not a single part of my body that's fine now. Do you know how lucky you are to still have the chance to sit here and talk to me? Lan Shangu said expressionlessly, if I didn't coincidentally go to Arasima's concert, if I didn't coincidentally go to the artist's dressing room, do you know what would have happened to you? All fate isn't fate, all coincidences aren't coincidences. Can he really kill me? Fu Lei sneered. A life for a life. Does he have the guts? A life for a life? Someone has to prove that he did it first. Lan Shanggu's face was full of sarcasm. Even if he doesn't kill you, breaking one of your legs and destroying your offsprings is something he can still do. He's too arrogant. Fu Lei said viciously, Brother Lan, you people are just going to watch him do whatever he wants in watching? You've already spoken up for me, but he won't even give you face. Who does he think he is? Lan Shanggu sighed, because he's Fang Yen. Fu Lei searched for a long time but couldn't find his glasses. Looks like he lost them when he was beaten. He took out a silk handkerchief from his pocket and wiped the wounds on his face, saying coldly, Evil people need to be dealt with. Someone has to stand up and teach him a lesson. Otherwise, he'll never be able to find his place. Lan Shanggu suddenly turned around and stared fiercely at Fu Lei, saying, Young Master Fu, don't play the game you like in Obey. Watching has its own rules. Are you scared? Even Jiang Junling couldn't do anything to him. Who do you think you are? Lan Shanggu said with a serious expression, Furthermore, he is far more dangerous than you can imagine. If you really want to deal with him, then get out of my car immediately. The Lan family will cut off all business with the Fu family. Of course, after you get out of the car, I will give him a call and kindly remind him to be careful of your revenge. Fu Lei's expression flickered for a moment before he burst into laughter. He covered his throbbing cheek and said, I'm just joking. Why is Brother Lan so serious? Don't joke with me about such things, Lan Shanggu said with a smile. Fu Lei looked at Lanshan Valley and asked, You really can't move? We really can't move. Lan Shanggu said firmly. This kid is really ruthless. Fu Lei sighed. The Lan Mountain Valley had many other luxurious residences outside, but tonight, they returned to the Lan clan's old residence in the North Sea Plains. Lan Shanggu's car stopped in the courtyard. He asked the butler who came out to greet him, Is Grandpa asleep? Master just wrote a piece of calligraphy. He drank some milk and was about to sleep. The butler smiled and said, Valley, why are you back today? I'm going to talk to Grandpa, Lan Shanggu said. Young Master, the butler stopped him. It's late. Master is about to sleep. If it's not something urgent, we can talk tomorrow morning. It's something urgent. Lan Shanggu ignored the butler's obstruction and quickly walked to his grandpa's bedroom. After Lan Shanggu finished speaking, the old man sitting at the head of the bed asked, This is his reaction? This is his reaction. Lan Shanggu said, The Lan family and the Jiang family made such a big move. How can he not know? So what if he knows? Grandpa Lan asked. Could it be that Fang Yen is so impressive that he only allows the Lan clan to follow behind him and wag our tails and beg for mercy, but we can't run other businesses? Grandpa, it's not that we can't run other businesses. It's just that we don't need to run the energy business anymore. Wasn't the Lu family's ending bad enough? The Jiang family is split up. Who still respects them now? Why does the Lan family have to get involved in this mess? The old man sighed softly and said, Valley, you're still too shallow. You need more practice. Grandpa, give up. As long as we maintain a good relationship with Chao Yen, we can become the biggest beneficiary of the energy industry. Why must we jump into the battlefield and fight with others? That's not something we're good at. Only by fighting with others can we become the biggest beneficiary. The old man said firmly, Valley, it's decided. I'm old and tired. I'll leave the future to you. Your biggest weakness is that you're too young. Your biggest strength is also that you're too young. Young people should have the vigor and drive of young people. You can't always guard the city like this. Lan Shanggu knew that his objection failed again. Grandpa was still more optimistic about the future of the Jiang family. Yes, the Jiang family had been standing for 1,000 years. How could a small company that had been established for 2 or 3 years compete with them? In 1,000 years, how many challengers had the Jiang family met? And the result? The Jiang family was still the Jiang family. The graves of those challengers were already covered with thorny trees and weeds. Would Fang Yen really be an exception? Of course, there was no need for a driver arranged by Wang Ku. That was no different from having a spy by his side. Fang Yen drove Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to the barbecue stall under Haizhu Bridge. In the past, Fang Yen often ate supper with them there. Both of them couldn't forget the seafood barbecue there. These days, supper, like comrade, miss, and godfather, had become a word that had been ruined. Modern people imposed another meaning on it. Fu Lei and Liang Decheng wanted to treat Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to supper, but Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were unwilling. Fang Yen wanted them to rest early, but the two girls insisted on treating Fang Yen to supper. It had to be said that this was really a humorous matter. "Mr. Fang, why did you want to come to our concert? If you want to come, just let us know. We'll reserve the front of the stage for you. Mr. Fang, what do you think of our performance tonight? Which program do you like the most? I'm guessing it must be Swallow Dock, right? That's because the name of this song is about your swallow dock. Mr. Fang, did you hear Honey confess to you on the stage? She said she misses you so much. Hee hee, am I the third wheel between you two?" The two girls were a little older, but they still maintained their lively nature. Since they got in the car, they had been chattering nonstop, and because of the more experiences they had, the bolder their topics were. Yuan Lin also teased the relationship between Fang Yen and Jiang Qin from time to time. On the contrary, it was Jiang Qin who became a little shy because Yuan Lin saw through his thoughts. Just now, she did stand on the stage and boldly confessed. She thought it was just a simple interaction with her fans, but she didn't expect that the person involved was also at the scene. Fang Yen concentrated on driving, enjoying this long-awaited gathering of friends. "I like every program of yours very much," Fang Yen said with a smile. "I watched you walk on this road with my own eyes. At that time, you were still ignorant children, but now you have become the idols in the hearts of countless people. I didn't expect you to progress so fast, and I didn't expect you to be so talented in classical instruments. I arrived at the scene very early, looking forward to your appearance with the other fans, looking forward to the surprise you brought us. Not only did you bring surprises, but you also brought shock. As your teacher, I am really proud of you." "Mr. Fang, are you still a teacher at Rosefinch Secondary?" Jiang Qin asked. Fang Yen said, You left Rosefinch?" Jiang Qin exclaimed. "But it doesn't matter, you can go wherever you like. I'm still at Rosefinch." Fang Yen said, "But I'm no longer a teacher, I'm a security guard." When they arrived at the familiar seafood stall, Fang Yen parked the car and then walked inside with Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. The people of Huaqing liked to eat barbecue, drink cold beer, and chat in the open air, but Fang Yen insisted on bringing the two girls into the private room inside. They were originally delicate and cute, and now they were members of the famous Arasima group. If their fans saw this, they might not be able to eat in peace again. Yuan Lin didn't like eating in the private room, so she said pitifully, "I thought that when I returned to my hometown, I could sit at the stall and eat seafood and drink beer without caring about my image, but I didn't expect this wish to come true." Fang Yen looked at her with a smile and said, "Who asked you to be a big star now?" "Sigh, this feeling is really..." Yuan Lin thought about it seriously and said, "It's sweet and burdensome." Jiang Qin took the menu and ordered the grilled oysters and conch that Fang Yen liked to eat, and the sori, kebabs, eggplant, and corn that Yuan Lin liked to eat. He also ordered his favorite chicken feet and white bean sprouts. He also took the initiative to order 3 mugs of beer, preparing to drink one each with Fang Yen and Yuan Lin. Jiang Qin handed the menu to the waiter, then sat at the side and quietly looked at Fang Yen. Fang Yen turned his face towards her, and she immediately blushed and moved her face to the side. Yuan Lin burst out laughing, then looked at Fang Yen and asked, "Mr. Fang, now that Qin Qin and I have to call you teacher, if you marry Qin Qin in the future, will I have to call Qin Qin master's wife?" "Yuan Lin, watch me tear your mouth." Jiang Qin was extremely shy, and she pounced over to grab Yuan Lin's little mouth. Yuan Lin hurriedly jumped up to dodge, and played hide-and-seek with Jiang Qin along the table. She said, "If you don't want to, then I'll marry Mr. Fang, and you have to call me master's wife." Fang Yen felt that he couldn't sit still anymore. How could she bully an honest person like this? Chapter 495. Ding dang. The 3 glasses of beer collided with each other and made a crisp sound. Cheers to your results, Fang Yan said. Cheers to our reunion in 3 years, Jiang Qin said. Yuan Lin giggled and said, cheers to the future when you have to call me master's wife. Not sure if it was because there weren't many customers, but the food that Fang Yan and the others ordered was quickly served. It was the same old restaurant with the same familiar smell. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin seemed to have missed the seafood barbecue in Huaqing for a long time. As soon as the oysters were served, the 2 grabbed one each and ate them greedily. The shells outside were heated up by the charcoal fire, and the 2 were so hot that they couldn't bear to put them down. Slow down, be careful not to get burned, Fang Yan said with a smile. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if your fans saw your gluttonous faces? I don't care about them, Yuan Lin said coquettishly. The oysters outside don't taste like home. The food at home is still the best. Exactly. When we were in Yanjing, Yuan Lin always talked about the oysters at home and the soy sauce pork trotters made by my mom. Jiang Qin sucked the juice on his finger and said, Mr. Fang, you haven't eaten at my house for a long time, right? My mom always talks about you. Fang Yan nodded and said, I just returned to Huaqing and have a few urgent matters to deal with. I haven't had the time to visit Sister Li and Uncle Jiang. If you go visit your parents, you have to visit mine too. Yuan Lin buried her head in her food and said without lifting her head. Otherwise, it's not fair. My mom has been talking about you too. Every time you call me, you'll ask me how your teacher Fang is doing. If he has time, ask him to come over and have a meal or something. Teacher Fang, aren't you embarrassed to say no? That doesn't make sense, Fang Yan said with a puzzled expression. What's unreasonable? Yuan Lin asked. You're still so young. Why would they worry that you won't be able to get married? Who's worried? My mother is not worried at all. Yuan Lin said proudly, there are many men who like me. Then why are they in such a hurry for me to visit them? Fang Yan asked with a smile. That's because you are our benefactor. At first, we wanted to study music, but our family didn't agree. Now that they see that we have achieved such outstanding results, they naturally want to thank you properly. Yuan Lin explained with a serious expression. Then she looked at Fang Yan with a face full of joy and exclaimed, Mr. Fang, it feels great that you're willing to eat barbecue, drink beer, and chat with us. I don't want to either, Fang Yan said with a smile. You dragged me here by force. What could I do? If it can make you happy, we'll pull you out every day, Jiang Qin said. Mr. Fang, you don't know how annoying you used to be. Yuan Lin and I said 100 words to you, and you wouldn't respond to us. We said ours, and you thought of your own. You completely treated us like transparent people. Sorry, don't say sorry. Jiang Qin interrupted Fang Yan's words and said, as long as you're happy, we're willing to suffer any grievances. After eating and drinking their fill, they promised to meet again the next day. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin finally agreed to let Fang Yan let them go back to the hotel to rest. They had been in high-intensity rehearsals for the past few days, and they had performed on stage for more than 2 hours tonight. Their physical strength had long been exhausted. The joy of seeing Fang Yan had supported them until now. As their stomachs were full, their brains began to lack oxygen, and it was difficult for them to keep their eyes open. Yuan Lin ran out to pay the bill. This little rich woman had always maintained a good habit of paying the bill first. Looking at the seafood sign above her head, Su Qi said with a smile, Teacher Kai, let's sit here. Baldy looked at the sign and said, Okay, let's eat here. I like this place, and I used to often gather here with the teachers from school. As long as you don't order crabs, everything else will be fine. Su Qi pursed her lips and said, Teacher Kai, we've agreed that this meal is on me. You can order whatever you want, whether it's crabs, lobsters, or abalones. You've been with me for so long today, so it's only right that I treat you to a meal. Baldy sat down on an empty table with some apprehension. Even now, it still felt unreal. She asked in a low voice, That, Su Qi, are you? Su Qi was looking at the menu. Hearing Baldy's words, she asked in confusion, Teacher Kai, what are you talking about? Are you going to do something to you? You're not trying to hit on me, are you? Baldy asked with a vigilant expression. Su Qi, let's be clear. I admit that you're really beautiful, and I quite like you. But the school has a rule that teachers and students are not allowed to be in a relationship. I'm a great teacher, Teacher Kai. Security isn't a teacher. I'm not done yet. I'm a great teacher security guard, and I'm responsible for Rosefinch's safety. I can't, and I'm not allowed to take the lead in breaking the school's rules, Baldy said in a sad voice. Su-Chi, just give up on me. There will be better things waiting for you in the future. We're not compatible. Su-Chi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She said, Teacher Kai, you're thinking too much. I don't mean that. I just want to treat you to a simple meal. By the way, you said that you used to gather here with your colleagues. Did Mr. Fong come with you? Fong Yen? Why do you keep mentioning him? I'm just asking casually. There's no point in asking. I've already told you that Mr. Fong is taken now, and other people can only look at him from outside the courtyard. He has a handsome appearance and an outstanding temperament in the crowd. How can a godlike man like that be touched by any woman? He's like the most precious jewel that only our old leader, Principal Lu, is qualified to have. Are they married? Su-Chi asked with a sigh. Baldy looked at Su-Chi with hostility and said, even if they're not married, it has nothing to do with you. You should just give up on this idea. Order the dishes, order the crabs, 3 of them weighing 8 ounces. Order the lobsters, 3 of them that are a foot long. Order the abalones, 2 or 3 of them, 3 to 5 of them. I'm hungry. Baldy was very angry. He felt that young girls nowadays were so annoying. They didn't like men of the same age as them, but they wanted mature uncles like them. Girl, the uncles don't ask. Su-Chi was a little depressed, but she still generously ordered the crabs, lobsters, and abalones for Baldy. She felt that it was not enough, so she ordered 5 or 6 kinds of expensive seafood from the seafood stall. Baldy's heart was filled with a sense of guilt. He felt that he shouldn't have said it so straightforwardly. Su-Chi sat there in a daze without saying anything, and Baldy didn't know what to say. The process of waiting for the dishes to be served was a long time. Baldy had to take out his phone and read online novels. Eating the fish with pickled cabbage and fish at the school gate and reading the urban novels written by Liu Xiaohui were one of his few hobbies. Fang Yen went out with the 2 little girls, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, and saw Su-Chi and Baldy sitting at the entrance of the seafood stall from afar. Fang Yen was hesitating whether to greet them or not, but Baldy seemed to have sensed it and raised his head. His eyes were puzzled at first, but then he pushed the chair away and jumped up with a face full of surprise. As if he felt that his behavior was very uncivilized, Baldy became sneaky again. He went straight to the front of Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, and with a flushed face, he stammered and asked, "Excuse me, are you Arasima?" Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were shocked. They thought, why did I meet a fan at this time? There were so many people eating at the food stall at the entrance. If I let him shout, wouldn't it alarm everyone? When Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were hesitating whether to admit it or not, Fang Yen had already stood in front of Baldy and said, "Baldy, why are you here?" Baldy suddenly saw Fang Yen and exclaimed, "Mr. Fang, why are you here?" It seemed that this guy only had eyes for the Arasima group. He actually ignored his old friend who was walking in the front. "Why can't I be here?" Fang Yen said angrily. "Why are you here?" Baldy said angrily. Seeing Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin following closely behind Fang Yen, Baldy became even angrier and said, "How can you be here? How can you be like this? I already said that I will come out to block those crazy bees and butterflies for you, and you go back to take care of Principal Lu. Everyone will work together for a better life in the future. But why did you sneak out? And with such a beautiful girl. If you don't know how to love yourself, what's the point of my efforts?" Fang Yen hesitated whether he should knock this crazy guy out or not. Jiang Qin looked at Baldy with puzzled eyes and asked, "Mr. Fang, is this your friend?" "My school colleague," Fang Yen said. "Also a friend." Baldy's expression changed very quickly. He looked at Jiang Qin with a face full of smiles and said, "Miss Jiang Qin, nice to meet you. I'm Mr. Fang Yan's colleague and also his best friend." "Nice to meet you." Jiang Qin took the initiative to shake Baldy's hand. Baldy's face suddenly turned red. He wiped his palm on his clothes again and again before carefully shaking Jiang Qin's hand. He said excitedly, "Miss Jiang Qin, nice to meet you too. You're even prettier than in reality. Am I not in reality right now?" Jiang Qin asked slyly. "I'm talking about reality." "No, I'm talking about TV." Yuan Lin also shook hands with Baldy. Baldy was so happy that he didn't even know he was Baldy. Su Qi walked over and saw the Arasima group that was very close to Fang Yen. Su Qi looked at Fang Yen and asked, "Mr. Fang, the person you said is braver than me, is it one of them?" Chapter 496. Fang Yen didn't expect to meet Baldy, nor did he expect Baldy to be with Su Qi. Moreover, the two of them would go to the food stall for supper. The scene of the two of them standing together was so beautiful that Fang Yen couldn't imagine it. Hearing Su Qi's question, Fang Yen raised his eyebrows slightly, smiled at Su Qi, and said indifferently, "It's not them." Su Qi was stunned for a moment. Not them? If it's not them, then who is it? Even Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin of the Arasima group weren't the woman who could make his heart palpitate. Then, what kind of woman could occupy such an important position? Su Qi was really curious, but also really unwilling. What kind of man is this? She felt that he was different from the first time they met. His appearance was handsome, but his temperament was deep. For such a young man to have such a calm temperament, it was indeed a very strange thing. His eyes were very clean, but there was endless anger hidden in the depths of his eyes. He was like a child who was wronged, but didn't know who to vent his anger to. His gentle and elegant side was like the sea, making people involuntarily drown in it. His ruthless and cold side was like a flame, burning fiercely, making people aware of the danger, but couldn't help but want to turn into a moth and fly away. She originally thought that he was just an ordinary person with charm, but now she found out that he had a close relationship with the Arasima group. Such a person was only a security guard at Rosefinch Secondary. Wasn't this the most absurd thing in the world? While Su Qi and Fang Yen were talking, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were also looking at Su Qi. She was a very beautiful girl, just like herself when she was young. Moreover, this girl had an air of nobility about her, and it was obvious that she wasn't born in an ordinary family. Yuan Lin was an expert in this area. She could easily tell from the stitches of the girl's skirt, the fabric of the shoes, and the style of the bag she carried with her, that this girl's outfit was worth at least 100,000 Wuxia dollars. The two women looked at each other with a tacit understanding that they were on each other's side. Hearing the strange conversation between Fang Yen and Su Qi, Yuan Lin asked, "Mr. Fang, what are you talking about?" "Speaking of an old friend," Fang Yen said with a smile. "Is that so? Do we know each other?" asked Yuan Lin. Fang Yen nodded. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin had met Qin Etian before. "Is it Sister Qin?" Jiang Qin was smart and immediately understood who the girl was. Su Qi had used adjectives like braver than her. Qin Etian was undoubtedly the bravest girl they had ever met. "Oh, Sister Yi is also very brave." Fang Yen didn't answer Jiang Qin's question. Instead, he looked at Su Qi and said, "You haven't eaten yet, right? We'll go first. You should go back and rest early after eating." Then, he said to Baldy, "Baldy, you must ensure Su Qi's safety." After saying that, he walked toward the parking lot. "Wait a minute," shouted Baldy angrily. Fang Yen turned around and looked at Baldy, asking, "Is there anything else?" Baldy's face was flushed. He walked to Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and asked in a low voice, "Excuse me, can I take a picture with you?" Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin nodded. So, Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, one on the left and one on the right, accompanied Baldy to take a picture. Because Baldy was too shy, he bowed his head and was too embarrassed to look at the camera when taking the picture. This picture made Baldy look too wretched, like a robber who was arrested by two beautiful policewomen. Fang Yen left with Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, leaving Su Qi in deep thought. "That Sister Qin, what kind of person is she?" Su Qi asked. "She's not a person." Baldy was still immersed in the glory of taking a picture with his idol. He said casually, "She's a goddess." As usual, Fang Yen woke up at 6 in the morning. When he opened the window and was about to change into his exercise clothes to go to the backyard, he saw a black Mercedes-Benz parked in front of the villa. A cold sneer appeared at the corner of Fang Yan's mouth, then he quietly walked downstairs. At this time, Lu Chaoga hadn't woken up yet. He didn't want to disturb her rest. Fang Yan walked to the window of the Mercedes-Benz and looked inside. Then he gently knocked on the window. The window quickly opened. Lan Shanggu, who had just woken up from his sleep, rubbed his eyes and said embarrassedly, "Young Master Fang, I'm sorry I fell asleep while waiting. When did you get here?" Fang Yan asked. "Last night." Lan Shanggu opened the door and got out of the car. The bones in his body were cracking. He had maintained the same posture in the car for far too long. "Come in and have a cup of coffee," Fang Yan said. Fang Yan personally brewed a pot of coffee. He carried it to the living room and poured a cup for Lan Shanggu. Lan Shanggu quickly thanked him. Fang Yan held a cup and smelled the rich aroma of the coffee. He asked, "You didn't come to see me last night just to get a cup of coffee, did you?" The coffee had a rich aroma, but when it entered his mouth, there was a strong astringent bitterness. The coffee was bitter, but Lan Shanggu's heart was even more bitter. Lan Shanggu looked at Fang Yan with a serious expression and said, "Young master, I'm here to apologize to you." "Apologize? Is it because of helping Fu Lei?" "That's already in the past, you didn't do anything wrong," Fang Yan said. "Young master, it's something else," Lan Shanggu said. "The Lan clan is preparing to invest in Longtu together with the Jiang clan, increasing their investment in Longtu Group. So, my portion of the shares will be diluted? Unless I also invest, otherwise, I won't have much say in Longtu, is that right?" "Yes," Lan Shanggu said honestly. "This is a good thing for the Lan clan." Fang Yan looked at Lan Shanggu thoughtfully and said, "Everyone knows that the energy industry will be booming, but the threshold for this field is too high. Normal people can't get in. If the Lan clan can accept this admission ticket from the Jiang clan, it will be a huge boost to the Lan clan's future development. The Jiang clan is really generous to the Lan clan. After the death of the Jiang clan's elephant, he was actually willing to cut off the fattest thigh for you." Lan Shanggu didn't think that Fang Yan was praising him. He stared at Fang Yan with burning eyes and asked, "What do you think, young Master Fang?" "What do I think?" Fang Yan squinted his eyes and smiled. "What opinion can I have? I'm an outsider. I don't have the right to decide the Lan clan's matters. If that's the case, you'll have to blame me for not being sensible." "I know what to do," Lan Shanggu said with a heavy voice, as if he had made a huge decision. Fang Yan patted Lan Shanggu's shoulder and smiled. "Have some coffee. My cooking is not bad. I won't disappoint you." Lan Shanggu took a sip and smiled. Young Master Fang never disappoints us. The news that Lan Shanggu wanted to separate from the Lan clan quickly spread throughout Huaqing. "He's a madman. A complete and utter madman. Is he King crazy? The Lan clan was originally his, the future successor of the Lan clan. Who is he going to separate from? Split his own clan? What is Lan Shanggu trying to do? What is the Lan clan trying to do? I don't understand, I really don't understand. Lan Shanggu looks like a madman, but he's actually a madman. Madmen are the scariest. The Lan clan's old mansion. All the important figures of the Lan clan gathered together. Other than third uncle who was far away in Beijing and fifth uncle and fifth aunt who were far away in America, this was the most complete gathering of the clan. Bang! Old Master Lan gently placed the teacup in his hand on the table. Although his movements were very gentle, it still seemed too loud and clear when everyone was even breathing cautiously. Old Master Lan looked at Lan Shanggu, who was kneeling in the middle of the central room, and asked in a hoarse voice, "Have you decided?" "No decision. No decision." Lan Shanggu's father, Lan Ling, jumped out and knelt beside Lan Shanggu. He said anxiously, "Dad, Shanggu is usually crazy. This time, he's even more sick. I'll bring him back and have a good talk with him." "Dad, don't be angry. If you're not happy, just beat him up and scold him. Let him have a taste of our Lan clan's family rules. That's enough." Old Master Lan waved his hand and said impatiently, "I'm asking about Shanggu. What are you doing here? Is Shanggu still a child?" Dad, Shanggu is a child, bastard. Old Master Lan was angry. If he's a child, will the future of the Lan clan be in his hands? If he's a child, will the lives of the entire family be his toys? When everyone supported him in the past, why didn't you say that he was a child? Dad, don't try to persuade me. I've already made up my mind. Lan Shanggu raised his head and said loudly, I'm leaving the Lan clan. What are your conditions? Let me take Daoist trade away, Lan Shanggu said. Daoist trade was founded by Lan Shanggu. Previously, it was under the name of the Lan Clan's corporation. However, Lan Shanggu held a large number of shares and was also the legal representative of the trading company. Lan Shanggu and Chaoyan Technology, which was represented by Lu Chaoga, were working together. Daoist Trade was helping Chaoyan Technology's little flame products to be the sellers. Anything else? Nothing else, Lan Shanggu said. Wow, everyone was in an uproar. The Lan clan was huge and had a few listed companies under their name. As one of the most important figures in the Lan clan, Lan Shanggu's request to leave the clan was only for Daoist Trade. This made the other members of the Lan clan laugh so hard that they couldn't close their mouths. You think so highly of him? I'm willing to take a gamble. Old Master Lan pondered for a long time and said, I'll give Hua Mao to you as well. Thank you, Grandpa, Lan Shanggu said gratefully. Old Master Lan waved his hand and said, Go to the ancestral hall and receive a beating, then get out. Lan Shanggu didn't say anything else. He kowtowed to where Old Master Lan was sitting. When he raised his head, his forehead was dripping with blood. Old Master Lan was nowhere to be seen. Chapter 497. A white jade chess piece landed on the chessboard. The young man smiled calmly and said, Checkmate. The middle-aged woman sitting across from him stared at the chessboard for a long time, then shook her head and sighed, saying, It's hard to attack when advancing, and hard to defend when retreating. There are no reinforcements on the left, and no good generals on the right. I lost this game again. Jiang Junling nodded with a smile, saying, Auntie, you let me win. I didn't let you win. Li Yun shook her head and sighed, saying, I really tried my best. Jiang Junling picked up the teacup in front of him and took a sip, saying, Maybe men are more suited for the rough work of arranging troops and fighting. Li Yun chuckled, saying, That's right. Whether it's arranging troops or fighting in the bureaucracy, men always have the advantage. Of course, the Qin family is an exception. That girl Qin Etian is pretty good at what she does. She's not much weaker than you guys. The smile on Jiang Junling's face didn't change. He looked at Li Yun and said, You can't be envious of such things. Some people are God's favorite children, born with everything. Qin Etian must be God's own daughter. Li Yun sighed softly, saying, A son should be like Jiang Junling, an adopted daughter should be like Qin Etian. What a good saying. I think the two of you are really a good match, standing together like a perfect couple, making people like you from the bottom of their hearts. The sharpness in Jiang Junling's eyes disappeared in a flash, then returned to normal. He said with an indifferent expression, This kind of thing depends on fate. It can't be forced. Military orders, not that I'm being nosy, but I think men should be more proactive in this kind of thing. Just like the saying goes, a son should be like Jiang Junling, and there is only one Jiang Junling in this world. An adopted daughter must be like Qin Etian, and there is only one Qin Etian in this world. If you don't take the initiative, there are countless young people who will. What are women most afraid of? What she was most afraid of was a stalker. What if, and I mean what if Etian is snatched away by another man, how regretful would that be? Jiang Junling smiled and said, That's because we're not fated to be together yet. I can't blame anyone else. Sai, you are brave and resourceful in other matters, but you are too passive when it comes to matters of the heart. Why don't I go back to Yanjin a few days later and discuss it with Old Master, asking him to personally communicate with the Qin family? Looking at the Qin family's intentions, if the Qin family's Old Master made a move, this matter would be 40% successful. If you can get that woman to agree, then this matter will be 80% done. If you and Tian get along well, then wouldn't it be 100% done? Jiang Junling pondered for a moment, then raised his cup to Li Yun and said, "If the wedding is successful, Auntie will definitely receive a gift to thank you." Li Yun covered her mouth and giggled. "You're treating me like an outsider. I'm just concerned about my nephew's marriage. Don't tell me I'm going to accept gifts. Since you don't object, I'll start taking care of it when I return to Beijing. I'm definitely going to be the matchmaker." Jiang Junling nodded and said, "Okay. Auntie will go back and prepare first. I still need to stay in Huaqing for a few days." Li Yun looked at Jiang Junling with a guilty expression and said, "This time, the military order has been wronged." Jiang Junling smiled and said, "What's there to be wronged about? It's all for one's family." Li Yun sighed and said, "It's like playing chess. First you cut off your horse's leg, then you tie up your elephant's leg. How can you win this game? Feng Xing is stupid. He did such an outrageous thing and gave that Fang Yan a handle to threaten the military order and our family of generals. Otherwise, how could the military order be so passive? How could we agree to his greedy conditions? Don't worry about the gains and losses of one city and one land." Jiang Junling smiled and said, "Hasn't the new game just begun?" "Yes, the new game has just begun." Li Yun praised and said, "Pulling the Lan family into the game, this is an extremely ingenious move. Not only did it disintegrate the beneficial alliance that Lu Chaoga built in Huaqing with the Qin family as the main force and the Lan family as the auxiliary force, it also expanded a huge space for the Jiang family to move again. If the Lan family and them were on the same side, the Jiang family would be in a difficult situation in Huaqing. No matter how capable Jiang Zhulu is, he wouldn't be able to lead the rise of Longtu. It's already difficult to breathe. How can you talk about waving a knife and snatching a cake?" However, things aren't going so smoothly. Jiang Junling's eyes became gloomy. Lan Mountain Valley actually did such a thing. It's indeed a bit unexpected. He's just a loach that likes to jump around. Li Yun sneered. Once he leaves the Lan family, he's nothing. "I hope so," Jiang Junling said in a low voice. "Fang Yan and I are just two chess players. We're busy placing the chess pieces on the chessboard. When the real day of victory arrives, I hope I'll be the final winner." Jiang Junling looked at the chessboard in front of him and said, "Just like just now." Li Yun looked at this confident man, her eyes sparkled and said, "I believe that you'll definitely be the final winner." "I'm ready," Jiang Junling said firmly, ready to welcome victory. The incident of Lan Mountain Valley leaving the Lan family was still fermenting in Huaqing, and it was getting more and more intense. Everyone thought that Lan Mountain Valley was crazy. If he wasn't crazy, why would he do such a crazy thing? Even the Lan family's internal members expressed their pity for Lan Mountain Valley's actions while happily scolding him for being an idiot. The most important thing in life is to make a choice. Before the result comes, who knows if it's right or wrong? When the outside world pushed Lan Mountain Valley to the teeth of the storm, Fang Yan was still living his simple and pure life. He woke up at 6 in the morning to exercise, took a shower and changed his clothes, and then prepared breakfast for himself and Lu Chaoga. Lu Chaoga was still resting at home. Fang Yan drove Lu Chaoga's car to the school for work. Fang Yan parked the car and was about to walk towards the school's security booth when the school's dean, Li Ziqiang, ran over and said while panting, "Mr. Fang, I saw Principal Lu's car from afar and thought it was the old leader who came to the school for an inspection. I didn't expect it to be you who drove the old leader's car to work. Is Principal Lu all right?" "She's fine," Fang Yan said with a smile. "I haven't seen the old leader for a while. I really miss her a little. Go back and help me ask when the old leader is free so that I can visit her." Li Ziqiang looked at Fang Yan expectantly and said. Fang Yan nodded and said, "I will pass the message to her. But she has been really busy recently. I'm afraid she won't be able to find time for a while." The wound on Lu Chaoga's palm had not completely healed, and the wound on her neck was still scarring. Before the wound on her hand had completely healed and the scar on her neck had not completely disappeared, she probably wouldn't be willing to see anyone, right? Whether it was a woman or a goddess, loving beauty was innate to them. Of course, they were still male gods, and loving beauty was also innate to them. Li Ziqiang naturally knew that Lu Chaoge was very busy now. The small fireball product was popular all over the country. As the creator of the small fireball, how could Lu Chaoge be idle? Sometimes, Li Ziqiang would also reflect on himself. He wondered why he had been blinded by lard back then and kept going against Principal Lu. Back then, when everyone was rejecting and suppressing Lu Xiaoge, he had resolutely stood on her side and become her loyal confidant. When she left, whether he continued to stay at the school or followed her to Chaoyan Technology, his life would have been more comfortable than it was now, right? I know Principal Lu is busy, but you must ask her to take care of herself, Li Ziqiang said with concern. I will pass on Director Li's concern, Fang Yan said. Li Ziqiang laughed heartily and said, Thank you, brother. We old buddies at the school are still waiting to attend your wedding with Principal Lu. When you guys are going to have a wedding, you must let us know in advance. I won't be at the table that day, I will stand at the door and be your guest usher. Fang Yan smiled and didn't explain much. Because more and more people knew that he and Lu Chaoge were living together, everyone thought that they were already a couple. As for the wedding banquet, wasn't it natural? Li Ziqiang patted Fang Yan's shoulder and said, Mr. Fang is busy, I'll go check on the students' military training. Children nowadays are getting more and more delicate. They feel that they have been wronged by a little scratch. Sigh, how can they bear it when they enter society in the future? Li Ziqiang walked toward the playground in the backyard of the school, and Fang Yan walked from the inside to the security booth. The two of them went in opposite directions. When Fang Yan came to the security booth at the school gate, he saw Baldy and two colleagues gathered around the desk, as if they had discovered a new continent. Seeing Fang Yan come in, everyone looked at him with envy. Mr. Fang, someone sent you flowers. What kind of flowers are these? The purple ones are pretty. Mr. Fang, there's also a box with strawberry cake in it. Can I have a strawberry? Mr. Fang is outrageously handsome. It's natural for beautiful women to like him. Baldy looked at Fang Yan, as if he wanted to say something. Fang Yan looked at Baldy and said, What do you want to say? The enemy's artillery is fierce, but no matter what, you have to hold on, Baldy said earnestly. He patted his chest as if he was facing death calmly and said, I will always be with you. A taxi parked in front of the school gate. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, who had disguised themselves with hats and masks, jumped out of the back seat of the taxi and ran toward the security booth of Rosefinch Secondary. Baldy didn't expect to see his idol again early in the morning after he had just separated from him last night. His face was full of surprise. When he was about to run out to greet them, Fang Yan grabbed his arm. Director, I'm taking a day off today, Fang Yan said. Then he quickly walked over and pulled Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin into the school. These two girls, do they want me to be on the news? A few security guards at the security booth were full of envy and said, Mr. Fang is the super king of security. Baldy felt very upset. His idol was good in all aspects, but his taste was too poor. Chapter 498. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin were very busy every day. The company had booked an afternoon flight for them, and they had to rush to another city in the evening to prepare for a new concert. This was their job and their responsibility. They went to bed too late after eating supper last night. They could have had a good rest at noon. The reason why they overcame the urge to sleep late and came to find Fang Yan early in the morning was that they wanted to spend more time with Mr. Fang. But only for a short while. Fang Yan knew that they were tired, so he didn't take them to walk too far to see any street attractions. He just wanted to find a remote and quiet tea house where they could sit together and drink tea and chat happily. It was an antique tea house called the Thousand Leaves Tea House. The reason why Fang Yan chose this tea house in this long alley at first glance and finally chose this tea house as the place to drink tea was because the name of this tea house made him feel very close. Chin. These two words represented a martial artist that was revered by others and a lady that was pitied by others. Heaven on earth, how are they doing now? Chiba Tea House, the name is quite interesting. Jiang Qin looked at the small wooden building and said, the decoration is also very romantic. It's a bit Japanese style. Yuan Lin had a more accurate grasp of fashion. She looked at it carefully and said, They mixed the classical style of Wuxia and the traditional Japanese tea ceremony culture together, so it doesn't feel out of place. The owner of this tea house is a person with taste. And the owner is a girl, otherwise there wouldn't be such a delicate decoration style. Fang Yan pushed open the wooden door of the tea house, and a beautiful girl in a white traditional Chinese dress greeted him. She asked with a smile, "Do you want a private room or a private room?" "Mr. Fang, do we want a private room?" Jiang Qin took off the sunglasses on the bridge of his nose and said with a smile, "The air outside is fresher. Let's sit near the window, smell the tea and bask in the sun. It's so petty. This is the life I dreamed of when I was a child." Fang Yan smiled and said, "Okay. Then a private room. A window seat." The girl led the three of them to the wooden table and chairs on the boat, and then asked with a smile, "What kind of tea would you like to drink?" Fang Yan looked at the decoration of the tea house with great interest and asked, "Is the owner of this tea house surnamed Chiba?" The girl nodded and said proudly, "Our master's surname is Chiba. Since his surname is Xianxia, he should be good at the way of tea. I wonder if the owner could brew a pot of tea for us?" The girl looked embarrassed and said, "Sir, I'm really sorry. The dojo master was busy and couldn't personally serve tea. I've also learned from the owner for 2 years. Why don't I serve a pot of tea to the 3 distinguished guests?" Fang Yan didn't mean to make things difficult for the girl. He nodded and said, "All right. Then you can make the tea. Just choose what you're good at." "Thank you for your understanding, sir." The girl bowed slightly to Fang Yan, then turned around to prepare the tea leaves. Soon, the girl came back with a bamboo basket woven from a bamboo raft. Inside the bamboo basket was a white and elegant teapot and teacups, as well as a small plate of pale yellow tea leaves. "Sir, I'll brew a pot of Longjing tea for you." The girl sat in front of the tea table with her upper body straight. Just this sitting posture alone made people's eyes light up. She deftly and nimbly took out the teapot and teacups from the bamboo basket and then quietly waited. There was no electronic iron kettle on the tea table. Seeing Jiang Qin and Wang Lin looking at her with puzzled eyes, the girl chuckled and said, "Please wait a moment. We don't use an electric kettle to boil water. That will destroy the nutrients and vitality of the water. We'll use charcoal fire to boil the water from the Lotus Temple's well. The tea in the tea house is fished out from a deep well in the Lotus Temple and then transported by carriage. The water from the well is sweet and clear, and it doesn't contain any bleaching powder or other toxic substances. You'll know when you taste it." Jiang Qin and Wang Lin's eyes lit up. "We found a treasure land," Wang Lin excitedly said. "This is the first time I've heard that tea needs to be made from a well." Jiang Qin grinned and said, "I want to taste how good your Longjing tea tastes." "Miss Jiang, Miss Yuan, we definitely won't let you down," the girl said with a sweet smile. Jiang Qin and Wang Lin were shocked. The two looked at each other. Jiang Qin stared at the girl warily and asked, "You know us?" "I do know Miss Jiang and Miss Yuan, but you don't have to worry," the girl explained softly. "The tea ceremony and music complement each other, especially classical music, which is the main component of our tea ceremony. Every staff member in our tea house has to listen to a lot of classical music, and there are musicians who specialize in performing for the guests. The Arasima group is very popular in Wuxia, and your classical and modern music perfectly blends together, making it very easy for the public to accept. It's something we have to learn from. Last night, the tea house master led all of us to your Treading on Snow for Plum Blossoms concert. We were fortunate enough to enjoy a feast for the eyes." "I see," Jiang Qin said with a smile. "I didn't expect to find a bosom friend here. May I ask how I should address you, sister?" Wang Lin took the initiative to ask. "My name is Peony," the girl said. As he spoke, a young man in gray clothes brought over a pot of boiling water with white smoke. Peony immediately filled the pot with water and began to make tea. Her movements were as smooth as flowing water. It seemed that she had indeed spent many years immersed in the art of tea. Fang Yan nodded. "Indeed, a great teacher produces a great student. Sister Peony, you said that your tea house has a musician as well. Could you ask her to perform for us?" Wang Lin smiled. Of course, Peony said. She waved her hand, and another girl in traditional Chinese clothing walked over. Peony said, Sister Lily, Miss Yuan wants to listen to a song. Why don't you play for them? The girl blushed slightly and said, Then I'll just have to show off in front of an expert. I don't play well. Miss Jiang, Miss Yuan, please teach me. We're looking forward to it. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin clapped and cheered the girl on. The girl walked over to the guzheng in the corner and sat down. She calmed herself down, and the sound of the song flowed out like a gentle breeze or the dripping of rain. When will the Lord return? Jiang Qin looked at Fang Yen and explained softly. Fang Yen nodded and listened attentively to the girl's performance. When Lily finished playing, the three of them applauded enthusiastically. Lily walked up to Yuan Lin and said with a red face, Miss Yuan, I wonder if you could give me some pointers? I feel like I didn't play very well at the last part of the song. Yuan Lin nodded and said, There are some flaws. Longing for the return is a kind of deep expectation, not a kind of despair and sadness. I'll play it once, and you can listen carefully to the differences, okay? Thank you, Miss Yuan, Lily said excitedly. Yuan Lin walked over to the guzheng and sat down. She looked at where Fang Yen and Jiang Qin were sitting and quickly found the state to play. The fingers of both hands plucked on the strings. It was affectionate and made people feel a sense of loneliness and helplessness. When the song reached its climax, the wooden door of the tea house was forcefully pushed open with a bang. A group of men rushed into the tea house and occupied the largest table by the window on the right. The leader was a man in black trousers and a white shirt with a checkered vest over it. He had square eyes, thick eyebrows, and thin lips. With a cheeky smile, he said to Lily, Ask your owner to come out and make a pot of tea for me. Mr. Du, I'm sorry, our owner is not here. What tea do you want to drink? I'll make it for you, okay? Lily seemed to be very afraid of the young man, and her smile was flattering. But a man in black slapped the table and scolded, You're going to make tea? Who do you think you are? How can our president Du swallow the tea you make? Ask your owner to come out, or we'll smash your shop. Little Black, how many times have I said that you should be polite when talking to girls? The man in the waistcoat stopped the man beside him from showing his power. He looked at Lily with a smile and said, These guys are all rough people. They haven't read many books, so their words are not very pleasant to hear. Miss Lily, don't lower yourself to their level. It doesn't matter. Lily said with a smile, I'll make a pot of tea for Mr. Du. What tea does Mr. Du want to drink? Lily, I'm sincere to you. Don't deliberately deceive me. You know that I'm here to see your owner. Ask her to come out and make me a pot of tea. I'm not a tiger. Can I eat her in one bite? Mr. Du, our owner is really not here. Lily's face was slapped by the man in black named Little Black. Little Black wanted to slap again, but was stopped by the man in the waistcoat, who said, Okay. I brought you here to drink tea. I want to cultivate your temperament so that you won't get angry easily like a bunch of donkeys. We're still talking, how can you hit me? Little Black apologized to Miss Lily. Little Black glanced at Lily coldly, but he didn't mean to apologize. The man in the waistcoat smiled bitterly and said, These stubborn donkeys, I really can't do anything about them. Lily, go and ask your owner to come out. I've been here every day this week. Except for the first 2 days when I could see your owner has been avoiding me these days. This is not the way to treat a guest, right? Mr. Du, it's not that our owner doesn't want to see you. She's really not in the shop. Clang! The man in the waistcoat kicked Lily's stomach. Lily screamed in pain, fell back to the ground, and then rolled over repeatedly. She knocked down several tea tables and several pots of flowers. Chapter 499. The man in the waistcoat snapped his fingers, and the lackey next to him immediately handed him a thick cigar. Another lackey with sharp eyes and quick hands quickly lit the cigar for him. The man in the waistcoat took a puff of the cigar, and a large amount of smoke came out of his mouth. He stared with contempt at Lily, who was lying on the ground, unable to move, clutching her stomach but not daring to cry out. He sneered and said, Bitch, I gave you face but you don't want it. I'm talking to you nicely, but you treat me like a fool. If you dare to say that the dojo master isn't here again, do you believe that I won't sew your mouth shut? Lily's eyes were moist and tears kept flowing, but she didn't dare to refute the man in the waistcoat. She knew what kind of person the man in the waistcoat was, and she also knew that this man could do everything he said. The man in the waistcoat pointed at Lily with his cigar in his hand and said, "I'll tell you one last time, get your master to come out. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you for an IQ insult fee." Xiaohei kicked out, and a tea table beside his feet flew out. The tea table smashed into the wall and broke into pieces. Even the wall that had been built rustled and fell to the ground. "Xiaohei, you idiot," the man in the waistcoat scolded with a smile. "I mean, if their dojo master doesn't come out, I'll ask them for an IQ insult fee. Now that the dojo master hasn't decided whether she wants to come out or not, why did you make the first move? Do you want me to come out or do you not want me to come out?" Xiaohei smiled honestly and stood at the side, no longer smashing anything. Instead, he looked around coldly. When he saw Fang Yan and the others sitting not far away, he shouted angrily, "All of you, get out of here." Yuan Lin was just comparing skills with Lily, but in the blink of an eye, Lily was beaten to the ground. Her expression was extremely ugly as she scolded, "You hooligans are going too far." The men in black laughed. A thin bald man stared at Yuan Lin lecherously and said, "Miss, you have a sharp eye. We are really hooligans." Hearing the baldy's witty words, the group of black-clothed men laughed even more happily. Jiang Qin was worried that Yuan Lin would be at a disadvantage sitting there alone, so he quickly got up and walked over to stand with Yuan Lin. When the black-robed men saw Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, these two pretty and lively girls, their eyes lit up and some of them kept swallowing their saliva. Good luck, good luck. Originally, I wanted to accompany boss to pick up girls, but I didn't expect to see such a hot chick. Brothers, don't fight with me. I've decided on the girl sitting in front of the piano. I've always been scolded for not having artistic cells in my life. I want to study with this girl what artistic cells look like. Idiot, that's not a piano, it's a guzheng. Hee, I want the girl with long hair, I like the oval-shaped face. Shut the F***ck up, the man in the waistcoat shouted in a low voice. The hooligans didn't know what was going on and just looked at their boss in confusion. Could it be that he wanted to hog it all for himself? The boss looked at the two little girls affectionately. This kind of thing could really happen. The man in the waistcoat looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin in confusion and asked uncertainly, "You two, are you the Arasima group? You don't need to know who we are. What right do you have to hit us?" Yuan Lin said with a face full of anger. Jiang Qin didn't say anything, he just walked over and wanted to help Lily up from the ground. The kick from the man in the waistcoat was too heavy, Jiang Qin couldn't help Lily up even if he used all his strength. Lily's stomach hurt badly when she moved a little. It seemed that her internal organs were seriously injured. "Oh, the little girl's temper is quite big." The man in the waistcoat squinted his eyes and smiled. "I originally wanted to ask about it clearly. If you are the Arasima group, I would more or less give you some face since you are also people of the scene. Since you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame my brothers for being impolite. So what if you are the Arasima group? When we support you, you are high and mighty, but when we step on you, you can only lie on the ground or crawl on the bed like a dog." Without needing the man in the waistcoat to order, the little baldy impatiently rushed in the direction of Yuan Lin. The other men in black were not willing to fall behind. They all followed behind the little baldy and rushed in the direction of Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin. The faster the hands, the slower the hands, they couldn't let their brothers snatch this kind of thing first. "Du Chun, don't touch my guests," a sweet voice shouted aloud. It was like a cool spring, like a mouthful of rose dew. Even if it was said in anger, it made people feel like they had drunk fine wine. The bones of their whole body softened a bit. A tall woman wearing a cheongsam embroidered with cherry blossoms walked down the stairs from the second floor, like a flower goddess who had been banished to the mortal world. Seeing that familiar yet strange face, Fang Yan's mind was a bit absent-minded. It had been 3 years, it was really a long time. It had changed too many people, and too many things had happened. Thank God, at such a time, on such an occasion, They were able to meet again. Forced by the woman's power or beauty, the gangsters stopped and waited for the next order from their boss. The man in the waistcoat looked at the woman coming down the stairs in amazement. He put out the cigar in his hand in the ashtray, stood up from the chair, and said with a gentle smile, "I knew you were here. If you had come down earlier, my little friends wouldn't have dared to be presumptuous in front of you." He waved his hand, and the men in black immediately retreated. The cherry blossom woman walked in front of the man in the waistcoat in high heels, squatted down to help Yuri, and asked with concern, "Yuri, how do you feel? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" "Master, my stomach hurts," Yuri said with a face full of tears. The man in the waistcoat's kick was sharp and fierce, and the girl's delicate body couldn't bear it at all. "Don't be afraid, it will be fine. I will take you to the hospital now." The cherry blossom woman held Yuri's hand and comforted her. I'll do it," the man in the waistcoat said attentively. "It's my fault. If I hadn't brought these boorish men here, Miss Yuri wouldn't have been injured. I will bear the responsibility. I will send someone to take her to the hospital." The man in the waistcoat waved his hand, and two men in black came over to move the girl. "No need," the cherry blossom woman refused. "I will take care of my family myself." "Your family is my family. Why are you being so polite with me?" The man in the waistcoat said with a smile, "What are you waiting for? Quickly send her to the hospital for a full body checkup. You idiots, you can't do anything but spoil things. In the future, don't hurt people so easily. Can't you think before you do something?" The gangsters were timid, and they didn't have the courage to tell the truth. "If you don't take the blame for the boss at this time, what does the boss want you to do?" I said no. The cherry blossom woman's voice suddenly rose, and she stared angrily at the men in black who ran over to take Yuri away. All right, all of you come back." The man in the waistcoat called his men back. He squatted down to support Yuri's arm and said, "I will accompany you to take her to the hospital for a checkup. Don't worry, I will bear all the expenses." Yuri avoided him in fear, as if she was avoiding a poisonous snake. She didn't dare to let the man in the waistcoat touch her body. "I don't need you." The cherry blossom woman pushed the man's hand away. The man in the waistcoat's face turned cold, and he said, "Chibaku, are you rejecting me?" The cherry blossom woman's voice was very firm, and she said, "The answer is the same as the first time. I don't like you. Not only do I not like you, but I also hate you. The women of our Chiba family will never like a hooligan without a sense of morality. That is an insult to the Chiba family, and an insult to the God of Swords family." The man in the waistcoat's face changed several times, and then he slapped the cherry blossom woman's cheek. The cherry blossom woman actually had some martial arts background, and she tilted her head back, just in time to avoid his attack. "Interesting." The man in the waistcoat laughed sinisterly. "You dare to dodge? I'd like to see how long you can hide." As he spoke, he slapped the cherry blossom woman's face again. Slap. His arm was raised in midair, but he couldn't swing her down no matter what. Someone grabbed his arm, and there was a big hand on his wrist. The man in the waistcoat looked up and saw that it was the young customer who had been drinking tea by the window. He said with a face full of sarcasm, "If I were you, I would immediately kneel down and kowtow 3 times, and then scram as far as I can." "I don't think so," Fang Yan said. He began to exert force with his palm. Crack, crack. The sound of soybeans being stir-fried could be heard. "Let go, let go." The man in the waistcoat hadn't felt the pain just now. By the time he truly felt it, the pain was already unbearable. His breathing became rapid, and even the pain made it difficult for him to breathe. The muscles on his face kept twitching, as if he had just received an electric shock. No, he was currently receiving an electric shock. Tears came out of his eyes. Yes, they were really tears. They were the things that he had thought were the most fragile and cheap. It was a heart-wrenching pain, a pain that burned his soul. He wanted to scream, but even so, he had lost the strength to do so. The man in the waistcoat's arm began to change shape, and then it began to twist. In the end, it turned into a sausage that seemed to be supported by nothing hard. When Fang Yan let go of the waistcoat's wrist, The man had already collapsed to the ground like a pile of mud. Fang Yan had broken the bones of the man's hand inch by inch with his soft force. Even the most brilliant doctor couldn't repair them. Chapter 500. Because the pain almost made him faint, but because of the pain, he kept his brain awake. That kind of pain was like a steel knife, cutting into the deep cortex of his brain again and again. It made his whole body tremble in pain, but he could clearly feel the process of the steel knife cutting into the cortex. The man in the waistcoat didn't expect that he would encounter such a devastating blow when he just came to a small tea house to drink tea and flirt with girls. Fang Yan appeared too suddenly and clasped the wrist of the man in the waistcoat. When the men in black found that their boss was caught, they couldn't act rashly. When Fang Yan took the initiative to release the wrist of the man in the waistcoat, Du Chun's number one thug, Little He, who had long been on guard, immediately rushed toward Fang Yan and stabbed the sharp dagger in his hand toward Fang Yan's chest. This guy was ready to cut Fang Yan's chest open. Little He didn't know any martial arts, nor did he have any magical inner strength mental cultivation method. But he was naughty since childhood and was invincible in the whole street. His skills were honed through hundreds of battles, big and small. They were simple and fierce, without any fancy or superfluous moves. Fighters were most afraid of killing intent. There were two ways to cultivate killing intent. One was to be cruel to the enemy, and every move must take the enemy's life. The other was to be cruel to oneself, not afraid of death, and only to hurt the enemy. Little He was the kind of person who was cruel to the enemy. Even if it was the first time they met, he still put on a posture of stabbing. It made people feel cold and easily lose the ability to fight. If an ordinary person met an opponent like Little He, the best and most appropriate way was to turn around and run, or squat down with his hands on his head and beg the opponent to be a little gentle. Unfortunately, he met Fang Yan. Fang Yan never used his martial arts to bully others. However, if others wanted to use force to bully him, his counterattack would be particularly cruel and fierce. Fang Yan's body was perfectly straight, standing in place without dodging or evading. His eyes were filled with ridicule as he stared at Xiao He. He had a cold and aloof attitude, as if saying, "Come at me, I can send you flying with one slap." Xiao He felt insulted and became even angrier. Originally, he had only used 60% of his strength, but now he increased it to 12%. He used all the strength in his body to stab at Fang Yan's chest. He wanted to use this stab to stab a big hole in Fang Yan's internal organs. Quang quang quang. Their bodies were extremely close to each other. But Little Black stabbed out, but the blade did not enter Fang Yan's body. The blade carried a gust of cold wind as it flew towards Fang Yan. However, the blade stopped a few centimeters away from Fang Yan. Fang Yan held the blade between his two fingers as if he was holding a strand of hair between his fingers. Little Black's face was full of fear. He pulled out his saber and wanted to retreat. He felt a sense of danger, the kind of powerlessness that an egg would feel when facing a rock. How could Fang Yan let him go so easily? With a flick of his finger, the dagger appeared in his hand. Before Little Black could turn around and leave, Fang Yan had already stabbed the dagger into his left ribs. Little Black gave a muffled groan, his body retreated, and then fell to the ground. Blood seeped out from the gaps between his fingers that were covering the wound. Drop by drop, it was as if it was in a hurry to gather on the bluestone ground. From Little Black's attack to Little Black's fall, all of this happened in a flash. The other black-clothed men saw that Little Black, who was the most capable and the best among them, was taken down in less than a round, and his body was ruthlessly stabbed by someone. Each and every one of them was like a frightened bird, looking at each other, not daring to rush forward. Fang Yan's eyes swept across their faces. They all collectively took a few steps back. You, a man in black stuttered. "Do you know, who did you offend? You're dead, no one can save you, tell Du Qing to come see me." Fang Yan glanced at them and said expressionlessly, "Du Qing?" Everyone looked at Fang Yan in horror. Hearing Fang Yan take the initiative to mention Du Qing's name, they were even more shocked than when Fang Yan stabbed Little Black. He knew who Du Qing was, but he still dared to injure his junior? He knew who Du Qing was, but he still dared to stab his little brother? He knew who Du Qing was, but he still dared to say that he wanted Du Qing to come see him. Was he sick? Was Du Qing someone that anyone could see just because they wanted to? Was Du Qing someone that anyone could see just because they wanted to? Scram. Fang Yan shouted coldly. Crash. The men in black were in a panic. Du Chun, whose arm was crushed, was carried away by them. Little Black, whose ribs were stabbed, was carried away by them. In less than a minute, there was not a single hooligan left in the Chiaki tea house. They had all left, except for the pool of blood on the ground and the broken flower pots on the coffee table that proved that they had been here. Fang Yan then looked at the cherry blossom woman who was looking at him in surprise and said with a smile, Chiba Kori, are you all right? Mr. Fang, the cherry blossom woman called out happily, I didn't expect to see you here. I just happened to pass by and saw the Chiaki tea house's signboard, so I wanted to come in and have a seat. Fang Yan explained, can I help you take a look at your colleague? Thank you, Mr. Fang, Chiba Kori said gratefully. Compared to 3 years ago, her Huaxia language had improved by leaps and bounds. With her current performance, she could even become a broadcaster at a TV station. Fang Yan squatted down, held Yuri's wrist, and felt her pulse. He said, there's a blockage in her stomach. If she doesn't get rid of it, it will have a great impact on her body. I'll write a prescription. After you get the medicine, she'll be fine after taking it for 3 days. As Fang Yan spoke, he had already walked to the edge of the desk that was specially prepared for the guests in the tea house. He dipped the brush in ink and wrote a prescription on the white rice paper. Then he handed the white paper to Chiba Kiru and said, simmer the medicine for 2 hours and pour it out. Wrap the hot medicinal dregs with a clean gauze and wipe it on your stomach. This can help to remove blood clots and also has the effect of cleansing the uterus and detoxifying the uterus. When the medicine is cold, drink it. Let her go back and rest for a few days. Don't come out to work for a few days. While Chiba Akari arranged for someone to get the medicine according to the prescription, she also asked Peony and a waitress named Money to send Yuri back to rest. After dealing with the matters in the tea house, Chiba Kari looked at Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin and said, Mr. Fang, Miss Jiang, Miss Yuan, if you don't mind, can I make a pot of tea for you to try? Fang Yan said to Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin, Chiba Kari is from East Asia. She's proficient in the tea ceremony. I'm far inferior to her. Chiba Kari chuckled and said, you still lost to Qinitan. Jiang Qin's eyes flashed as he looked at Chiba Kari and asked, Mr. Fang, is Sister Chiba Kari also your student? Chiba Kari nodded and said, I used to be Mr. Fang's student. It's just that I didn't have enough time to learn much about Mr. Fang's profound knowledge. Yuan Lin giggled and said, Mr. Fang, why do I feel like all your students are beauties? Whether it's Sister Qin or Sister Chiba Kari, any one of them is on the same level as the prettiest girl in the city. Isn't it unfair to the other teachers that there are so many of them in your class? Maybe it's because I'm more popular, Fang Yan said with a smile. Fang Yan was very happy to meet an old friend in a foreign land. Chiba Kori was someone that Fang Yan respected and missed. Chiba Kori was the daughter of his old friend and his former student. With these two feelings, Fang Yan naturally hoped that she could live a happy life. Chiba Kori was making tea. She used the same tea leaves and the same tea water, but the taste was very different from before. Moreover, Chiba Kori's tea-making technique was very complicated and beautiful. There is an almost religious piety in performing some of the ancient movements. Yes, Chiba Kori's religion was the tea ceremony. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin's faces were filled with admiration. They didn't expect the act of making tea to have so many steps, and the process was so pleasing to the eye. Jiang Qin was suddenly inspired, and he said happily, Sister Chiba, I want to write a song about the tea ceremony. If I need your help, don't say no. Of course not. Chiba Kori smiled gently. Promoting the tea ceremony has been my lifelong wish. Fang Yan looked at Chiba Kori and said, are you promoting the tea ceremony of Huaxia or Japan? I'm promoting the tea ceremony of Wuxia in Japan, Chiba Kaori said. Fang Yen was stunned, and he said with a smile, I was too stubborn. My father was also a stubborn person. That's why he made that choice. Chiba Kaori's eyes were a little gloomy. Clearly, she still hadn't gotten over her father's death. You men have a longer and narrower heart. I'm a woman. I just like the tea ceremony, regardless of whether it's Wuxia or Japan. That's all. Back then, you told me that you'd stay in Wuxia. I didn't expect you to really not go back, Fang Yen said with a sigh. I can't leave. Chiba Kaori shook her head. Mom went back and so did my brother. If I leave too, he'll be lonely. Although he never said it, he's very afraid of being alone. I miss him too, Fang Yen said. I visit him often. The more I see him, the more I feel that he's a great person. While they were chatting over tea, the glass wooden door of Chiba Tea House was pushed open by two men in black. Chapter 501. The two men in black pushed open the glass wooden door, one on the left and one on the right, and then stood on both sides of the wooden door. A man in a dark blue suit with a scarf around his neck walked in, followed by a tall and beautiful woman. Du Qing was here. He was cultured and elegant, with a strong scholarly aura around him. If no one introduced him, it would be hard to tell that this man was the king of Huaqing's underworld. When Du Qing saw Fang Yen, he laughed and walked over, saying, Brother Fang, long time no see. You look even better than before. Fang Yen stood up and shook hands with Du Qing. Then, he said with a smile, Mr. Du, you look like you're riding on the crest of success. Compared to 3 years ago, you look even younger. Really? Du Qing was overjoyed. I wouldn't believe it if someone else said it, but since Brother Fang said it, then I'll gladly accept it. Brother Fang, you left for 3 years. How could you be so heartless, not even giving Brother a call? Not even leaving a message for Brother? I went to visit the Liu family a few times and asked about your situation, but he didn't want to say much, only saying that he was being filial at home. The smile on Du Qing's face disappeared, and his big hand held Fang Yan's hand tightly, saying, Brother, I was worried, so I asked someone to ask around, but I didn't expect to hear such grievous news. I immediately called you, but I couldn't get through. Brother, it's a little late to say this, but don't be too sad. Thank you, Brother Du, Fang Yen said gratefully. His father died in battle, and Fang Yen was disheartened. Because Fang Yen decided not to return to Huaqing for the time being, the phone was constantly ringing, and it was abnormally noisy. In order to completely calm down, Fang Yen turned off his phone. This turned off for 3 years. No matter if Du Qing's concern was sincere or not, Fang Yen still owed him a favor for being willing to call and comfort someone at that time. What are you thanking me for? I didn't help much, it's my fault, Du Qing said with an apologetic expression. Fang Yen invited Du Qing to sit down, and said to Li Ye, who was standing behind Du Qing, Miss Li, please take a seat. Li Ye stood beside Du Qing and said mockingly, I never thought that Mr. Fang would still remember a small fry like me. It's really flattering. Li Ye's words were filled with thorns, but Fang Yen did not think much of it and said, My memory has always been good. I can even remember the name of a kitten or puppy that I've dealt with before. Fang Yen, don't go too far. Li Ye slapped the table and shouted angrily. Li Ye. Du Qing waved his hand, signaling Li Ye not to be rash, and said, Sit down and drink some tea. Li Ye did not dare to disobey her uncle's orders, and angrily sat beside Jiang Qin. Du Qing chuckled as he looked at Fang Yen and said, Children have a stubborn temper and have been sulking with me the whole way. Children are still immature, and quarreling with their parents is a common occurrence. Brother Du, don't take it to heart. Fang Yen comforted her. Fang Yen, who's a child? Who's immature? What did my brother do for you to beat him up like this? What kind of deep hatred do you have for him to crush someone else's arm? Do you know that he's already ruined? That hand is already ruined. The doctor said that it can't be cured, and that it will never be cured. Li Ye shouted with red eyes, her eyes filled with burning hatred. Du Chun was not Du Qing's son, but the son of Du Qing's younger brother. Du Qing's father was a carpenter. Once, when he was working on a beam, he fell and broke his leg, causing the family's living conditions to plummet. Du Qing dropped out of school early, and after entering society, he joined a gang. Later on, he was supported by the gang leader and quickly completed his primitive accumulation. Only then did he have his current status and wealth. However, Du Qing's younger brother, Du Hong, inherited his father's business and became a carpenter. He stayed in his hometown to build houses and make furniture. Du Hong did not have any education either, and he enjoyed his job as a carpenter very much. He stayed in his hometown to take care of his parents and was unwilling to come out, so Du Qing brought his younger brother's youngest son, Du Chun, out. Du Chun was Du Qing's nephew, and he owned a few bars. With Du Qing's care, he lived a happy and comfortable life. Du Chun knew that his uncle liked Li Ya, so he tried to get close to Li Ya. The two of them had a good relationship. Du Chun had a hotel by the river nearby. One time, when he came over for tea with his friends, he saw Chiba Kaori performing the tea ceremony for the guests. He was shocked and chased after her repeatedly. Chiba Kaori rejected him twice, but Du Chun did not give up and continued to come to the tea house every day. After not seeing Chiba Kaori for a few days, Du Chun's gentlemanly and gentle appearance disappeared. He became more and more impatient, and he became harsher and harsher to the staff of the tea house. This time, he brought enough people, preparing to smash the tea house if Chiba Kaori tried to avoid him again. However, he did not expect to bump into Fang Yan, Jiang Qin, and the others who had come to drink tea. Du Chun was acting cool to his heart's content, and someone could not stand it anymore. Fang Yan struck out with lightning speed and instantly exterminated him. They were the same kind of people, why rush to torture each other? Li Ya and Du Chun had an extremely good relationship, and the news of Du Chun being injured and hospitalized quickly reached Du Qing and Li Ya's ears. Li Ya wanted to rush to the hospital to visit Du Chun, but Du Qing said that he wanted to visit Fang Yan directly at the tea house. The two of them had different opinions. Li Ya said that Du Qing did not care about Du Chun's life and death, and did not give Du Qing a good look along the way. Du Qing was a generous elder, so he naturally would not lower himself to Li Ya's level. However, on the way, they received a call from the hospital, saying that they had already examined Du Chun's body. The bones in Du Chun's right arm were shattered, and he was completely crippled. There was no possibility of recovery. When Li Ya heard the bad news, she cried on the spot. When she saw Fang Yan, her attitude was naturally bad, and she wanted to rush up and tear off a piece of his flesh. He didn't do anything. Fang Yan said indifferently, "Nothing? You didn't do anything, yet you beat him up like this? Just crushing other people's bones?" Li Ya stared at Fang Yan in disbelief and said, "Are you a pervert? He only brought people over to smash someone else's shop and injure the staff of the tea house. Actually, it's not a heinous crime." Fang Yan pointed at Jiang Qin and Wang Lin and said, "Oh, he even ordered the group of little bastards he brought to molest the two of them. If they were to molest Miss Li, how would Miss Li deal with them?" Li Ya choked. "Oh right, we can also make some deductions and hypotheses. He has always wanted to pursue one of my students, the owner of this tea house, Miss Chiba-ku. Because Miss Chiba-ku rejected his feelings, he became more and more violent. Just now, he wanted to slap her in front of us. If Miss Chiba-ku rejected him more thoroughly, or made him completely give up, what else would he do?" Fang Yan looked at Du Qing and asked, "Brother Du, guess what else would he do?" "One arm is not unjust," Du Qing said in a deep voice. He raised the teacup in front of him and said, "If I were there, I would at least want both of his arms. Thank you, Brother Fang, for saving me some face." "Uncle, Li Ya, Fang Yan is not wrong in this matter," Du Qing said with a serious expression. "Others might not know, but don't you know? How did I educate them? How did I ask them to? People who bully people should have their heads chopped off in ancient times." Li Ya was unconvinced, but she could only suppress this anger in her heart. Who asked Uncle Du Qing to stand on his side and speak up for him? Du Qing looked at Chiba-ku and said, "This junior was rude and caused Miss Yi to feel wronged. How about this? Get someone to make a list, and I will compensate for all the losses of the tea house." We will also bear the medical expenses and mental damage of the injured staff members. By the way, Miss Yi can rest assured that no one will come looking for trouble in the future. Du Qing took out a name card from his pocket and placed it in front of Chiba Q and said, "If any blind thieves or scoundrels come looking for trouble, Miss Yi can call this number. My friends in Huaqing will more or less give me some face. Thank you, Mr. Du, for taking care of me." Chiba Keiru is very grateful. Chiba Ker held the name card with both hands and respectfully bowed to Du Qing to thank him. Although Chiba Ker had lived in Huaxia for many years, she still retained some traditional Japanese habits. Du Qing waved his hand and said, "I am ashamed. Fang Yen and I call each other brother, and his students are also my juniors. I should have taken care of you, but I didn't expect you to be hurt like this. This is my fault, and I am only making up for some of the losses. I hope you can understand." When the tea house was done with the work, Du Qing looked at Fang Yen and said, "Brother Fang, can we have a private talk?" "No problem." Fang Yen nodded. He turned to look at Chiba-gu, who was beside him, and asked, "Is there a quiet place here?" Chiba-gu stood up and said, "There is a private room upstairs, I will take you there." "There is no need. We can go there by ourselves," Fang Yen said and waved his hand. "Don't worry, we won't get lost." Chiba-gu covered her mouth and laughed and said, "Mr. Fang is still so humorous." Fang Yen made an inviting gesture and entered the private room on the second floor of the Thousand Leaves tea house with Du Qing. Leah looked at Jiang Qin and Wang Lin, then looked at Chiba Q, who was making tea gently, and asked, "Are you all his students?" "Yes," the three girls answered at the same time. "Pervert." Leah sneered. What kind of teacher would bring the prettiest girl in the class out for tea? Wasn't the answer simple and clear? "You are the pervert," Jiang Qin retorted. "That's right. One look and I can tell you are not a good person. Mr. Fang is a very good man, don't belittle him like this." Leah felt that she had no chance of winning against the three of them. Chapter 502. The second floor was filled with individual private rooms. They were also constructed with a large amount of wood. The decorations were more exquisite than the ones below, but it didn't seem too complicated. It was as antique as the ones below, which made people feel better for no reason. Fang Yen and Du Qing chose a room near the window and sat down. They didn't even call for the waiter to bring them tea. "What do you want?" Du Qing looked at Fang Yen sitting opposite him and asked in a low voice. After not seeing him for 3 years, this man's change could be described as heaven and earth. A year ago, Fang Yen was smart, sharp, had a bright smile and a joking attitude. He didn't seem to care about anyone or anything, and he played around in this world with a playful attitude. Some people hated him, but there were also people who liked him from the bottom of their hearts. Because this kind of person didn't look like a bad person at first glance. But now, Fang Yen was gloomy and cold. From the way he crushed Du Chun's arm and stabbed the knife into Xiao Hei's ribs, it could be seen that he was also a little cruel. His eyes were still clear, but the occasional flash of sharpness was frightening. His smile was still moving, but when the corners of his mouth curled up slightly and his eyes narrowed slightly, it was enough to frighten people. His heart was vicious, and his eyes were murderous. These two temperaments were contradictory to his pure temperament. They were easily highlighted, and he couldn't suppress them even if he wanted to. Du Qing knew what Fang Yen had experienced, and he also understood why he had such a change. The hatred of killing one's father was absolutely irreconcilable. If someone treated his parents like this, Du Qing guaranteed that he would do it 10 times or 100 times more extreme than Fang Yen. But this kind of change happened to someone else. It was still a little hard to get used to. The current Fang Yen made people afraid, and it was hard for people to get close to him like they used to. Emotions were the most hurtful. This saying was indeed true. "I want what my eyes can see," Fang Yen said. Du Qing was stunned. What could his eyes see? Is this statement in a broad sense or a narrow sense? Was it a statement of fact or a clever analogy? Was it his current field of vision, or the whole of Huaqing? Or an even more distant and vast territory? Du Qing was very frustrated. If he had known this would happen, he would have worked hard to learn Chinese. Otherwise, he would have understood what Fang Yan was talking about. He really didn't like dealing with language teachers, whether it was in the past or now. At the very least, Du Qing knew that he was looking at him. It was his ability, his intelligence, everything he controlled and possessed, including warm friendship or unwavering loyalty. Du Qing remained silent for a long time. Fang Yan was not in a hurry. He sat in front of the window and watched the people coming and going on the street below. Everyone had a different expression on their faces, and everyone's eyes were filled with worries. He was not the only one who was tired. Everyone's life was not easy. When Fang Yan was deep in thought, Du Qing suddenly asked, "What can you give me?" Fang Yan's crossed fingers loosened a little. Du Qing saw this scene and thought to himself, he's still a young man after all. He didn't know why, but seeing this scene made Du Qing feel a lot more comfortable, and the wariness in his heart also decreased a lot. An invulnerable person was the scariest. Everyone should have their own weakness. Only those with weaknesses were worthy of being close to. It was just that most people didn't understand this. "I'll give you more glory," Fang Yan said with a smile. "What you urgently need now and what you can't imagine." Fang Yan and Du Qing didn't let everyone wait for too long. In less than 10 minutes, the two of them came out one after another. Both of them had warm smiles on their faces, indicating that they were chatting happily upstairs. Du Qing and Fang Yan shook hands again and sincerely invited, "Brother Fang, I've specially left some cakes and some good tea. You must come to my place when you have time. I'll definitely bother you." Fang Yan nodded and agreed. Du Qing then shook hands with Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin to bid farewell. As he held Yuan Lin's hand, he said, "Your uncle and I are considered old friends. Please send my regards to him when you have the chance. He's elusive, and it's not easy to find him for a cup of tea." "I will." Yuan Lin nodded and agreed with a sweet smile. Du Qing shook hands with Chiba Kaori and said, "Miss Yi, I'm really sorry. Your father is a martial artist that I respect very much. I won't let his most beloved daughter experience something like this again. As long as you don't leave Huaqing, I'll ensure your safety. If anyone dares to bully you again, I'll repay them 100 times over." "Thank you, Mr. Du." Chiba Kaori bowed deeply to Du Qing. Although she didn't know what Mr. Fang and Du Qing were talking about upstairs, the fact that Du Qing said something like that after coming downstairs proved that he was indeed expressing his attitude. Du Qing patted Li Ya's shoulder and said, "Let's go. We won't disturb their reunion." Li Ya followed behind Du Qing and walked out of the door. She had no interest or mood to greet anyone. A great teacher produces a great disciple, and an evil teacher produces an evil disciple. After Li Ya got on the car, she immediately poured out her dissatisfaction and said, "Uncle, do we need to give that Fang Yan so much face? Who does he think he is? He's so arrogant. He hit our people and he still has the face to ask us to come and see him? We should indeed come and see him. Wouldn't it be better to bring a few dozen people to see him?" Du Qing glanced at Li Ya and said earnestly, "Do you think you can make Fang Yan stay just because you brought a few dozen people? Do you think he's a god? A few dozen people can't make him stay. If a few dozen people can't make him stay, then we'll bring 300 to 500 people. We have a lot of people anyway," Li Ya said unhappily. Du Qing shook his head lightly and said, "Even 300 to 500 people can't make him stay." Du Qing held Li Ya's hand and said with a serious expression, "Xiao Ya, Fang Yan is not from the same world as us. This kind of person either be friends or never get to know each other, never be enemies. It's too dangerous, it's hard to defend against." "Uncle, who is he?" "Inner martial world." "Is there really a martial world? What is the martial world? And what is the inner river lake?" Li Ya kept asking like a curious baby. "It's too complicated and dangerous inside. It's best if you don't ask too much," Du Qing said. Although Li Ya was full of questions, she couldn't do anything if her uncle didn't say anything. The current Fang Yan is no longer the Fang Yan of the past. Du Qing sighed and said, "That's right. In the past, I thought he was cheeky and not too annoying. But now, he's simply an egomaniac. He's not an egomaniac. Du Qing said. He really is. He has the capital to be arrogant. Rosefinch Secondary's teacher? He has a grandfather who's a prime minister in the academic world? Du Qing shook his head and said, Fang Yan left watching for 3 years, so you stopped paying attention to him. Or perhaps you've never paid attention to such a man. The current watching is a huge coliseum. There are 2 top-notch experts engaged in a bloody battle. One of them is Yanjing General Family's Jiang Junling. Jiang Junling from Jiang Junling? Li Yo was shocked. The other person is Fang Yan. Du Qing said. Fang Yan? What gives him the right? Li Ya asked in disbelief. It was not only Li Ya, this kind of news would be shocking to anyone. One was a school teacher, and the other was the future heir to Yanjing's richest family. Their status, wealth, resources, and connections were all unequal. It was like a battle between an ant and a giant elephant. How could an ant make a giant elephant tumble? Because he's Fang Yan of the inner society, because he's the major shareholder of Chaoyan Technology, because he owns 30% of Longtu Group's shares, because the 4 prodigies of Huaqing are under his tail, because Lanshan Valley was forced out of the family because of him. It's unknown whether Qiang Longtan is dead or alive, but he might have died in his hands. Because of him, Jiang Fengxing was abandoned by his family and became a wandering soul in the sea. Longtu Group was torn apart, and Jiang Junling was forced to bow down to him by the power he created, and was bitten by him. This is Fang Yan, the young man you met just now. Tell me, what gives him the right? Li Ya was deeply shocked, her eyes widened and her mouth slightly opened. After being stunned for a long time, she cursed without a care for her image and said, F***ck, is this guy a pervert? He's so skilled, has such a powerful background, and his wealth is dozens of times more than ours. He didn't want to be a successful person in society, but went to be a school teacher. Is he crazy? Crazy. Du Qing smiled bitterly and said, Silly child, I don't know if he's a pervert or crazy, but if we want to be enemies with him, then we're all perverts and crazy. Du Chun, this idiot, Li Ya scolded angrily. Of all people he could have provoked, why did he have to provoke Fang Yan? This time he kicked an iron plate and one of his arms is gone. Can it really not be fixed? If it really can't be fixed, we can send it abroad to have a look. Du Qing's eyes became fierce, like an enraged old leopard, his voice cold and murderous as he said, I originally thought that since this matter has nothing to do with us, we'll be impartial and not offend anyone, but there are people who want to use us as a good card. They borrowed my hand. Du Qing, are they not afraid that I'll cut off the arm they stretched out? Li Ya was shocked. She looked at Du Qing with a face full of shock and asked, Uncle, you mean, go to the hospital? Du Qing said in a low voice. Chapter 503. Qinghong Hospital was one of Du Qing's businesses. When Du Qing and Li Ya rushed to Qinghong Hospital, Du Chun's body had already been examined and he was preparing to make the next step. When Li Dawei, the dean of Qinghong Hospital, heard that Boss Du had arrived, he quickly brought the experts to welcome him. Du Qing shook hands with Dean Li Dawei and asked, What's the result? There's no danger to his life, but the condition of his arm is not optimistic. Li Dawei's expression was serious, as if he was as sad as all of you. He said, I don't know what kind of attack he suffered, but the bones in his right arm have already been shattered. I asked young Master Du, and he said that he was only grabbed by the wrist. If it was only grabbed by the wrist, it would not have been possible to bring about such a degree of injury. To Li Dawei, the situation he encountered was against science. A normal person grabbed your wrist, and the bones in your entire arm were shattered. Was this a myth? Therefore, he believed that there were other secrets to this. Du Qing glanced at Li Ya, making her realize how terrifying Fang Yan was. He knew that this kind of situation did exist. Is there any possibility of curing Qinghong? Du Qing asked. Li Dawei shook his head and said, When young Master Du just sent it over, I gathered the orthopedic experts from the hospital to diagnose it. After the examination report came out, we immediately held a meeting. Everyone's views were not optimistic, and the only conclusion they came to was amputation. Dean Li, is there really no other way? Li Ya asked anxiously. A perfectly fine person's arm was amputated. No one would be able to bear such a consequence. Miss Li, we've really tried our best. Li Daoist said. If we can't solve it here, what about abroad? Is there any possibility of curing it? Leah asked. Li Daoist shook his head and said, the hope is very slim, because his bones are not broken, but shattered. If it's broken, we can repair it. A pile of shattered bones, whether it's at home or abroad, I'm afraid there's no mature treatment plan. We can also send the examination report to a few cooperating hospitals abroad to see their feedback. Du Qing nodded and said, do your best. We will. Li Daoist said as if he was promising. Du Chun was lying in the hospital's advanced ward. Because he had just been injected with painkillers, he had already closed his eyes and entered a deep sleep. However, his drowsiness was too shallow. When he heard the door open, he immediately opened his eyes and looked over. His face was pale, his hair was messy, and his eyes were bloodshot. Du Chun, who had always liked to dress in a British style, had fallen into such a haggard state in such a short period of time. He was about to face an even more difficult choice. Fate was really amazing. Uncle, Du Chun called out. His voice was dry, and there was no moisture in his mouth. Du Chun. Leah ran to Du Chun's bedside. Seeing his unbearable pain, her eyes reddened once again and she said, Du Chun, how do you feel now? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? I'm fine. Du Chun's eyes were filled with bone-deep hatred as he said, that Fang Yen is too vicious. How do you know his name is Fang Yen? Du Qing looked at Du Chun expressionlessly and asked aloud. Uncle, Leah's face also froze. Yeah. How did Du Chun know that the person who cut off his arm was called Fang Yen? Or did he send someone to inquire about it after the incident? With his injuries like this, he still had the mood to ask someone to inquire about the origins of the culprit? If someone went to inquire about it after the incident, would the news have spread so quickly? The greater possibility was that Du Chun knew that the person was Fang Yen a long time ago, but he still went over recklessly. He said it himself. Du Chun's eyes were flustered as he said, when he beat someone up, he said his name was Fang Yen. Du Chun, if you still want to lie to me at this time, I will turn around and leave. I will no longer care about your matters. Your life and death has nothing to do with me. Du Qing said sternly. Uncle, I was wrong. Du Chun struggled to get up, but was pressed down by Du Qing and Leah. Du Qing patted Du Chun's shoulder and said, Du Chun, you're still young, and sometimes you don't know what's important. But now, you must tell me what happened. This is very important to us. Du Chun nodded his head and said, about a week ago, Wang Lin and Zhang Jiming came to find me and asked me to arrange a place to discuss some cooperation. I told them to go to my bar, and they said that they had drunk too much recently, and now they felt like vomiting when they saw alcohol. Then they took me to a tea house called Thousand Leaves near the bar. At that time, I saw Chiba Kiru and thought that this woman was very beautiful, so they encouraged you to pursue her, didn't they? Du Qing asked. Yes, they said that this was a fairyland on earth, and that such a beauty could not be missed. They also said that I would definitely not succeed. I was not convinced, so I made a bet with them, saying that I would be able to take this woman down within a month. Du Qing looked at Leah, meaning to say, do you think I guessed wrong? Leah was both angry and annoyed. She slapped Du Chun's head and scolded, Du Chun, you idiot! Have you never seen a woman in your life? They clearly treat you as a fool and set up a trap, waiting for you to jump into it. You are really not polite at all. Such a beautiful woman, with the Zhang brothers' moral character, why don't they do it themselves? Why did they have to think of a way to provoke you? Du Chun was shocked and said, they deliberately tricked me. At that time, they also said that they wanted to make a move, but I said that I was the first to discover it, so I had to pay attention to first come, first served. So you went to harass the Thousand Leaves tea house again and again? To pester Chiba Kiru? Leah asked. Since the bet has already been made, I can't give up halfway. Furthermore, I've already boasted to them that if I can't even deal with a little curator of a tea house, I'll lose too much face in front of my friends. Leah laughed coldly again and said, so, In order to not lose face in front of your friends, you would rather lose an arm? Du Chun's mood became irritable and said, I didn't expect it either. I didn't expect it to end like this. I've already bribed the staff of the tea house. She will inform me at any time. I didn't expect him to be so vicious. I thought the people I brought would be enough to make him suffer. You just said. The staff member who tipped you off was the woman you kicked and beat? Du Qing asked. How do you know? Du Chun asked in surprise. What was she doing when you came in? She was playing the zither with someone? Du Chun said. There are so many waiters in the tea house, and she is playing the zither with someone. Are you talking about the zither in the corner? Du Chun nodded and corrected, yes, it's the zither. The zither is in the corner, and you are sitting on the big round table at the entrance of the tea house. Don't ask me how I know, because I saw blood on the floor of that table. In other words, you and that girl are sitting at the innermost part of the tea house, and the other is sitting at the outermost part of the tea house. Are there any other waiters between the two of you? Yes. There should be. Du Chun asked uncertainly. He wasn't a detail-oriented person. He just wanted to pick up a girl, so why would he need to pay attention to these things? Even if he did, he wouldn't care at all. They were just some insignificant people. What kind of storm could they cause? Don't you think it's strange? That girl was clearly playing the zither with someone, but when she saw you coming, she immediately came up to receive you. Furthermore, there are other staff members among you? This isn't the first time you've been to the Thousand Leaves Tea House, and today isn't the first time you've lost your temper, right? Logically speaking, the staff of the tea house all know what kind of person you are. You brought a large group of people over to cause trouble, and as long as it was a normal person, they would deliberately avoid you and not want to get close to you. But she was the exact opposite. Not only was she not afraid, she even ran past the other staff members to receive them. Isn't this enough to make people suspicious? Du Chun was so shocked that he couldn't say a word. Being with his uncle constantly reminded him that he was actually a 100% idiot. There was no substance in the middle. Leah finally understood the cause and effect of the problem. She looked at Du Qing in shock and said, So, Fang Yan already knew that Du Chun and the staff member who was beaten up were acting? When he saw Du Chun make a move, he was unwilling to make a move, and instead sat there quietly waiting. With his ability, if he was willing to make a move, how could Du Chun have the chance to hurt him? Du Qing said. Is he really that smart? Little Ya, Fang Yan is definitely the smartest person I've ever met. He's also the most vicious person. I'll remind you again, don't be careless. Du Qing's expression was more serious than ever. Do you think that Fang Yan crushed Du Chun's hand because he had already beaten up a staff member who he already knew was in cahoots with Du Chun? Do you think he made such a big commotion just to vent his anger for his student? He is warning Du Chun, warning me, warning us that there might be a mastermind behind us. I haven't seen him for 3 years. He doesn't know what happened, and he doesn't know if my choice and our power are still neutral. He's worried that I've already been roped in by someone, so he purposely let Du Chun do this. So, he got someone to call me and ask me to meet him at the tea house. These words caused Leah to sweat profusely. She did not expect that there would be so much inside information hidden within. Compared to these people, Leah felt that her IQ was not enough. She swore in her heart that if anyone praised her for being smart again in the future, she would definitely pull out his tongue in anger. This was an insult. All the detail-oriented people in the world are bastards. Leah roared and cursed in her heart. After thinking for a while, he added, except for Uncle Du Qing. Chapter 504. Leah put away her pride and hatred towards Fang Yan and said, So, when I stubbornly wanted to come to the hospital to visit Du Chun, you rushed to the Thousand Leaves Tea House? Some misunderstandings are better solved earlier than later. Du Qing said, If we were late, or if we didn't go, I'm sure Fang Yan would have made a move on us by now, right? What could be more important than this? Du Qing looked at Du Chun and said, Why can't you understand a situation full of flaws? Brother Wang Lin didn't come earlier or later, But at this time 3 years later, don't I find it strange? Fang Yen had only returned to Huaqing for a few days, and those people had already sent you to him. Chiba Kaori's father was the head of the Chiba military department. He was the sword god worshipped by the Japanese martial artists. He was a real god. If the news of his daughter being bullied in Huaxia spreads, Du Chun, how many heads do you think you have for them to chop off? Even if Fang Yen doesn't do anything, he only needs to pass this news to the Japanese. Du Chun, do you think our days will be peaceful in the future? What do you think those crazy Japanese swordsmen, what will they do? 100,000 men of sacrifice going to Huaxia, don't you think it's spectacular? Thinking of the suicidal attacks of the Japanese soldiers, Li Ya and Du Chun's heart sank. It was too dangerous, too scary, too deadly. Who are these people? What were these people's hearts made of? With a casual move, they pushed people into a pit of fire. No, it wasn't just a pit of fire. This was a mountain of knives, a sea of swords, and the 18 levels of hell. In the past, Leah scoffed at the saying that a certain person could do anything with a flip of his hand. After this incident, she finally believed that there were people who could reach such a level. Fang Yen was like that, Du Qing was like that, and the person behind all of this was like that. With a glance or a move, they could bring people to heaven and send them to hell. They were all devils. Yes, complete and utter devils. If possible, Leah would never want to interact with such a person in her entire life. Uncle, I don't understand. Why did those people target us? Why did they push us to the opposite side of Fang Yen? Leah asked in confusion. Because of those buckets of water, Du Qing said bitterly. If they want to play chess with Fang Yen and want to win the game, then they will have to play chess with him. Of course, we have to do a detailed investigation on Fang Yen and the people around Fang Yen. We send water to Fang Yan's grandfather, Lu Gong, every month, so they will naturally suspect that we have a close relationship with Fang Yen. 3 years ago, Lu Gong brought Fang Yen to visit Du Qing. Or rather, he was looking for trouble. In the end, Du Qing cleverly resolved it. Not only did he appease Elder Lu's anger, but he also managed to obtain one of Elder Lu's paintings with the help of Fang Yen. In order to thank Lu Gong for giving him the ink, Du Qing would visit Lu Gong's house every New Year's Day and other festivals. And the water that Hu Pu Quan brought back was 4 times a month, and it had not stopped for 3 years. Those people who had grasped the situation would naturally suspect the relationship between Du Qing and Fang Yen. They would even mistakenly believe that the reason why Fang Yen was able to find Jiang Longtan and Jiang Fengxing's ships so smoothly in the vast sea was because of the Qing gang. Du Qing had such a background, and he had countless open and hidden connections with all sorts of people. Such a person was naturally extremely dangerous to them. So they want to remove us, the chess piece? Li asked. They are just testing us. Du Qing said. They pushed Du Chun out to test us. If our 2 families fight, they will naturally take us in with a smile and use us. If our 2 families are safe, it proves that we and Fang Yen are indeed as close as they see. Then their real killing move is about to come. What kind of killing move? They will personally spread the news of Du Chun bullying Chiba Kaori to the East Ocean. Leah really wanted to cry now. Why were those people so bad? How could they bully people like this? Did honest people deserve to be bullied by smart people like you? Uncle, what should we do now? Du Chun's already pale face became even paler. He didn't think, and it was impossible for him to think, that just going to a tea house with a friend for a cup of tea, seeing a beautiful girl and making a bet, how could it bring about such a huge impact? How could it push him and his uncle into a desperate situation? Build an alliance with Fang Yen, and work hard to get Chiba Kaori's forgiveness. Du Qing said firmly. That's what I rushed to the tea house to do. We've already formed an alliance with Fang Yen? Is there a better choice? Du Qing smiled bitterly. Is it better for us to face those crazy death warriors alone, or is it better for us to face them together with Fang Yen? Chiba Kaori is Fang Yan's student, and it seems like they have a good relationship. Why would Fang Yen help us? Because it was the Fang family who killed Chiba Kaori's father. Du Qing said in a heavy voice, no matter what the reason is, the East Ocean people will put this hatred on Fang Yen. Fang Yen is their longtime enemy. So, he doesn't care how many East Ocean swordsmen he offends. We were born to work together. When he asked to meet, I had no reason to refuse. It was Li Ya's first time hearing so many secrets, and she found it hard to digest. Chiba Kori is Fang Yan's student, and Fang Yan's family killed Chiba Kori's father? But why does it seem like they have a good relationship? She said one bad thing about Fang Yan, and 3 women attacked her, including the woman who killed her father, Chiba Kori. It didn't seem like there was any deep hatred between them. What kind of strange world is this? No matter how we deal with this, we're the biggest losers. Du Qing's face was covered with a layer of haze as he said, Fang Yan lost, but he won our full support. We lost, and not only did we have to choose a side, but we also have to face unpredictable risks. The people behind all this, they're the biggest winners. With just a flick of their fingers, they pushed Fang Yan to the front of countless Japanese warriors of sacrifice once again. They put us in a difficult situation, and we might face a destructive attack. The mastermind, the man who played chess with Fang Yan? Leah asked through gritted teeth. Du Qing didn't answer Leah's question, but looked at Du Chun and sighed softly, saying, "Take this arm as a lesson. After you recover, go back home and don't come back for 3 years. Uncle, my business. Leave your business to Leah to manage, and all the income will be transferred to your account." But you still don't trust Leah? Uncle, I don't want to go back home. Let me stay in Huaqing. I promise I won't cause any more trouble. If you don't cause trouble, trouble will cause trouble for you. Du Qing sighed softly and said, "Put me on the fire to roast under my butt, and also put you guys on the fire to roast." Uncle, it's decided, Du Qing said with a strong attitude. Little Ya also reduce the number of times she goes out, and try to let her subordinates handle the matters under her jurisdiction. He knew better than anyone that the future Huaqing would be a reshuffled Huaqing. The Jiang family might be eliminated, but it might rise again. The Lan family would split, and would the old die or the new be established? The Mei family would remain independent, but could they always refuse to get involved? And the Lu family, would they really follow Fang Yan sincerely, or was it just Lu Shu's decision? As for the other observers, who would they place their bets on? Since he had formed an alliance with Fang Yan, he could only do his best to help Fang Yan achieve the final victory. Fang Yan, would he really not disappoint? After working hard in society for decades, Du Qing started to feel that he couldn't see the situation clearly. I understand, Leah agreed. After knowing how cunning those people were, and also understood how strong they were, she couldn't even think of fighting them. This world still belonged to smart people. I'm going back to the countryside to farm. Du Chun knew that he couldn't hold on any longer, so he could only accept his uncle's arrangement. Du Qing patted Du Chun's head and said, "Your hand might not be able to keep it, be mentally prepared." Du Qing turned around and left, while Leah stayed behind to take care of Du Chun. "Sis, I really can't keep my hand?" Du Chun asked sorrowfully. Leah nodded and said, "Finally, your life is saved. Du Chun, you really got into big trouble this time. The tea was already in its 3rd brew, and it wouldn't taste too good if it continued. Instead, it would ruin the beauty left behind." Fang Yan looked at Chiba Sun and said, "It's good to see that you're fine. Since we found a place today, we might come here often to drink tea in the future. We'll be leaving first. The 2 of them still have to catch a flight later." Chiba Sun immediately stood up and bowed deeply to Fang Yan, saying, "Thank you, Mr. Fang. If you hadn't appeared in time today, the Chiba tea house might have been destroyed by them. It started because of me. Why are you thanking me?" Fang Yan shook his head and said, "I was the one who brought you trouble. But don't worry, something like this won't happen again. You have to be careful too. If you encounter anything that you can't solve, you can call Mr. Du or contact me anytime." As Fang Yan spoke, he took out his phone from his pocket and handed it over, saying, "Save your number." Chiba Sun's eyes were filled with doubt, but she quickly understood. She shouldn't think about things that she couldn't understand. Let nature take its course and follow her heart. Chiba Sun didn't reject Fang Yan's good intentions. She took Fang Yan's phone and saved his number, then dialed her own number. If there are any Japanese friends who came from afar, please send my regards to them, Fang Yen said. He turned around and walked outside. Mr. Fang, Chiba Sun shouted. Fang Yen turned around. This isn't fair to you, Chiba Sun said. Is there anything fair in this world? Fang Yen smiled and said, don't ask that injured employee to come back to work anymore. Chiba Sun's eyes instantly became clear, and there was an unconcealable anger on her face. Chapter 505. Jiang Qin and Yuan Lin didn't understand what they were talking about, but they knew it must be very bad. Because they found that Fang Yan's eyes were very lonely and his smile was very bitter. Mr. Fang, are you okay? Jiang Qin asked with concern. I'm fine. Fang Yan smiled and shook his head. Am I not fine? It's good that you're fine, Yuan Lin said. They were worried, but Fang Yan didn't want to tell them the truth, and they didn't know how to comfort him. Fang Yan invited them to lunch, but the two girls refused. They got up in the morning and ate a lot of desserts in the hotel restaurant. Now they couldn't eat anything. Fang Yan sent them to the hotel door, and then the two girls went back to their room to pack their luggage. They were going to the airport in a while. After Jiang Qin got out of the car, he rushed up and hugged Fang Yan. He said, Mr. Fang, be happy forever. After that, he turned and ran toward the magnificent hotel lobby. Yuan Lin opened her arms to Fang Yan and said, I want one too. Fang Yan hugged Yuan Lin and said, you too should be careful. Mr. Fang, don't worry. We will take good care of ourselves, Yuan Lin promised. When the two girls' figures disappeared, Fang Yan drove the car away. The phone in his pocket rang. Fang Yan glanced at the caller ID. It was Lu Chaoga. Fang Yan answered the phone and asked with a smile, What's the matter? Are you coming back for lunch? Lu Chaoga asked. I'm on my way back, Fang Yan said. It was lunchtime now, and there was nothing to do back at school. It was better to go back and make lunch for Lu Chaoga. I see, Lu Chaoga said. After hanging up, Fang Yan was slightly stunned and then put his phone away. When Fang Yan returned to Lu Chaoga's villa, Lu Chaoga was in the kitchen cutting vegetables for cooking. Fang Yan said that he was on his way home, so she prepared lunch at home. Fang Yan was shocked and hurriedly said, Your hand hasn't recovered yet, you can't get wet. As he spoke, he tried to grab the knife in Lu Chaoga's hand. Lu Chaoga turned around and said with a smile, It's not that precious, nothing will happen. Lu Chaoga exclaimed in a low voice. When she turned around, the knife in her hand did not stop, and she accidentally cut a wound on her hand. Fang Yan hurriedly walked over and took the kitchen knife away from her hand. Looking at the blood flowing out of her finger, he frowned slightly and put her finger in his mouth. Lu Chaoga did not expect Fang Yan to react like this. Her body was stiff, and her cheeks were as red as a ripe tomato. A stream of sweet blood flowed into his mouth, and Fang Yan swallowed it. He took out Lu Chaoga's finger, looked at Lu Chaoga and said, It's a small cut, it's not deep, wait in the living room, I'll get some ointment for you. Okay, Lu Chaoga lowered her head and replied. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. It was very surprising that a professional queen who was so energetic at work was so timid and weak when it came to relationships. Fang Yan quickly found the golden chrysalis muscle-nourishing powder that he had not used before. He applied a layer of it to the wound on Lu Chaoga's finger, and then used gauze to bandage the injured finger. After tying a beautiful bow, Fang Yan looked up at Lu Chaoga's pretty face and said, The wound on your palm is not completely healed, this hand must not touch water. If your palm gets inflamed a second time, even the golden chrysalis muscle-nourishing powder can't help you. I know. I used my other hand to wash the vegetables, Lu Chaoga explained. Then you have to use both hands when you cut the vegetables, right? What if the water stains on the vegetables or the knife get on your hands? Fang Yan said angrily. He put away the ointment, removed the apron from Lu Chaoga's neck, and walked toward the kitchen. He said, Tell me what you want to eat, I'll make it. Fang Yan walked into the kitchen and realized that Lu Chaoga had prepared all the dishes that she liked to eat. There was not a single dish that she liked to eat. Fang Yan glanced at Lu Chaoga, took the cleaver, and continued cutting the vegetables. Lu Chaoga walked in and saw Fang Yan's nimble and skillful knife skills. She said embarrassedly, "I thought I could do it too, but I didn't expect my cutting skills to be worse than yours. I've been playing with knives since I was young, and I've practiced for many years. How can you beat me?" Fang Yan said with a smile. "I met Chiba Kori today." Fang Yan recounted the entire incident and said, "I accidentally lost a match." "It's not really a loss." Lu Chaoga gave a fair evaluation. Being able to get Du Qing's help is a great reward. Du Qing is an extremely smart person. He hasn't shown himself in recent years, but his influence has been growing. With his help, it's easier for us to grasp all kinds of information in Huaqing. We're too weak when it comes to intelligence. We still lost. Fang Yan sighed. Chiba Kaori died in battle, and the East Asians are filled with hatred. I've been in Swallow Dock for 3 years, and the East Asians have finally shifted their attention. Now that he's pushing me out again, pushing me in front of the East Asians, there'll be some unnecessary trouble. Moreover, Du Qing and the others are in an even more dangerous situation. They enjoy the help of others, but they also have to bear the responsibility of protecting others. Now that we've allied with Du Qing's troubles are also our troubles. Du Qing isn't weak. As long as he doesn't leave Huaqing, he's more than capable of protecting himself. Lu Chaoga crossed her arms and pondered. It's just that his opponent is too scary. He can make us so miserable with just one move. This time, his evil plan succeeded. What more dangerous methods will he use next time? The enemy is in the dark and we're in the light. It's really hard to guard against. Fang Yan sneered and said, "Who said the enemy is in the dark and we're in the light? They're the same as us in the light, at least from today onwards. As long as he's still in Huaqing, as long as he hasn't left, their whereabouts will definitely be under our eyes. Du Qing isn't someone to be trifled with. He's suffered such a big loss today, so he'll naturally think of a way to get justice for his nephew. I believe in his ability and wisdom. We still have to be careful." Lu Chaoga stood behind Fang Yan and watched him hunch his back slightly while cutting vegetables. Her heart was full of pity and heartache. This young man, the opponent he faced was too strong, and the burden he had to bear was too heavy. She really wanted to press her body against him, to reach out and hug him tightly in her arms. She felt her breathing quicken, and she felt her heartbeat quicken. Her body's fragrance secreted more and more, and there was even a thin layer of sweat flowing out. She was wet. The t-shirt under the jacket and the underwear underneath were all soaked with nervous sweat. But she just didn't have the courage to take that step. "I'm really a timid woman," Lu Chaoga thought in her heart in annoyance. Fang Yan sensed Lu Chaoga's abnormality behind him, and his movements of cutting vegetables slowed down, but he didn't turn around in the end. A pile of dry firewood, a raging fire, as long as anyone took the initiative, as long as a spark flew out, it would start a prairie fire, and once it started, it would be unstoppable. Fang Yan finished cutting the vegetables and said, "I'm going to cook. Go to the living room and watch TV for a while, so that the smoke doesn't get on you." Lu Chaoga's voice trembled slightly as she said. She quickly left the kitchen and walked towards the living room. Deep love doesn't last long. Fang Yan's hands and feet were deft, and he quickly prepared a table of sumptuous dishes. Lu Chaoga had the habit of taking a nap. After lunch, Lu Chaoga went upstairs to rest, and Fang Yan cleaned up the dishes. After finishing the work at home, Fang Yan sat on the sofa for a while in a daze, but he still decided to drive to school. There was only Baldy on duty in the security booth. Fang Yan asked where the others went. Baldy said that the freshmen were in military training, and the others were patrolling the school's big field to prevent students from fainting from heat stroke or other emergencies. Fang Yan filled his teacup with tea and said, "If that's the case, then I'll go to the field." "Go." Baldy said with a smile, "Since you took care of those gangsters, no gangsters dared to come to our school to cause trouble. It's safe here, and nothing will happen." Although Fang Yan was no longer a teacher, he also knew that Rosefinch Secondary recruited 16 classes this year, and each class had 45 students. It couldn't be helped. As the reputation of Rosefinch Senior High School became more and more prominent, More and more parents wanted to send their children here to study. Moreover, in order to achieve this goal, they really didn't care about the cost. If it wasn't for Zhong Dai's strict control and stubbornly guarding the academic performance, Rosefinch would have recruited 100 classes. No matter how poor they were, they couldn't be poor in education. No matter how hard it was, they couldn't let their children suffer. The old man's words were the most thoroughly implemented in this society. Each class had a square formation, and 16 classes meant 16 square formations. Of course, during military training, boys and girls still had to be separated. Because of the difference in physical fitness, the training intensity was also different. The facilities of Rosefinch Secondary were still very good. There were 2 standard football fields, plus more than a dozen basketball courts, which was enough to accommodate the freshmen and the military training instructors transferred from the surrounding armed police force. The afternoon sun was very hot, and it burned people's faces. Fang Yen wasn't afraid of the sun, but he didn't like it to tan him, so he deliberately walked under the shade of the trees. "Why aren't you in military training? Which class are you in?" A rough voice shouted at Fang Yen. Chapter 506. In order to avoid military training, the students used all kinds of skills and means. Some people asked for period leave, some asked for sick leave, and some said that their parents suddenly passed away. In fact, their grandmother had passed away several years ago. Some people fainted while standing, and some people ran away while practicing. Therefore, the military training instructors and counselors of each class took turns to closely monitor the students to prevent any fish from escaping the net. It was time for military training. The young guy, Fang Yen, appeared in the shade of the trees next to the school. The nearby drill instructor saw him and thought that he was a student who couldn't stand the hardship and was ready to escape, so he shouted at him from a distance. Fang Yen looked around and made sure that there were no other students who skipped class around him. Then he said, "I'm not a student. I'm the school's security guard." Ha! There was a roar of laughter from the students. The laughter was crisp and clear. It was a group of girls. The drill instructor looked at Fang Yen and shouted, "Why aren't you wearing a security uniform? Come here and take 2 steps. I want to see if you are a real security guard or a fake security guard, a real Li Kuei or a fake Li Gui." Fang Yen had no choice but to walk toward the military training group with a teacup in his hand. The students were wearing military green uniforms and green hats. From a distance, it was hard to tell whether they were men or women. Looking closely, he found that all the students looked the same. Didn't someone say it on the internet? A girl who could stand out from the rest of the military training team was a true beauty. Every freshman season, there would be a lot of photos of beautiful girls on the internet. Of course, many of them were deliberately hyped up. Fang Yen really found a girl who stood out. It was Su Qi, who was standing in the first row of this group. Su Qi saw Fang Yen and greeted Fang Yen happily. She said, "Mr. Fang, why are you here?" "Mr. Fang?" Everyone looked at Fang Yen with puzzled eyes. Is this guy really a teacher? Didn't he say he was a security guard? Moreover, Su Qi actually knew this guy? Beautiful women always attracted more attention. Even though it had only been a few days since school started, Su Qi was already quite popular among the students of Rosefinch Secondary. The #1 beauty of the new students, the #1 beauty of Rosefinch, and countless other titles were superimposed on her. Every day, there were countless boys who came to the phalanx or went to the classroom to peep at her. Whether it was the boys or the girls or the teachers and instructors, they all knew of Su Qi's existence. Now that Su Qi took the initiative to greet a small security guard, it was indeed surprising. Fang Yen originally wanted to take a look from afar. He didn't want to get close to that team or provoke anything. He had long since realized that he had a mocking face, and anyone who saw it would want to slap him a few times. But now that Su Qi had taken the initiative to greet him, it would be rude of him not to respond. Therefore, Fang Yen smiled at Su Qi and said, "I'm just walking around." Su Qi's next words pushed Fang Yen to the heart of the storm. She smiled sweetly, and the military uniform and the green hat that didn't fit Fang Yan's aesthetic standards couldn't hide her flowery smile. She said to Fang Yan, "Mr. Fang, wait for me for a moment. Our moral principles are almost over. I'll treat you to a Coke later." Wow, everyone was shocked. Su Qi actually took the initiative to invite a small security guard to a Coke? And she made it very clear that it was her treat. Wasn't this a public invitation? Su Qi, what's the relationship between you two? Su Qi, don't tell me you like this small security guard? Oh my god, the campus belle Rosefinch and the security guard Rosefinch. Why does this combination seem so incompatible? Cheese the students discussed animatedly, and the girl standing next to Su Qi directly asked Su Qi boldly. Nowadays, high school students didn't know what it meant to be shy, and affectionate words were hanging on their lips. Fang Yan was stunned for a moment and said, "I still have a lot of things to do. You focus on your military training, don't be distracted." After saying that, Fang Yan wanted to leave this troublesome place. The black-faced instructor shouted. Fang Yan turned to look at the instructor and said with a smile, "Hello, is there something I can help you with? What's your name?" The instructor looked up and down Fang Yan's face and asked. Fang Yan said, "Are you really the security guard of the school?" Fang Yan nodded. "I'm often on duty at the school gate. Many students here should have seen me, right?" The instructor sneered and pointed to the black Chinese tunic suit on Fang Yan and said, "It's not the first time I've seen the school's security guards. I'm also very familiar with Captain Kai of your security department, and we've even had a meal together. Everyone else is wearing the school's security uniform. Why are you the only one wearing a Chinese tunic suit? Do you think the security uniform is ugly?" To be honest, Fang Yan did think the security uniform was ugly. Perhaps many of these students who were undergoing military training also felt that the military uniform they were wearing was ugly. However, if he said his true thoughts in public, it would be too offensive. It was not conducive to unity. Fang Yan laughed and said, "I don't think the security uniform is ugly. It's just that the clothes have just been washed, and there are no other clothes to change into. So I'm wearing a Chinese tunic suit. Do you have a little discipline and the concept of obedience? Do you have a little sense of professional pride?" The black-faced instructor shouted angrily, "If a soldier suddenly found out that he forgot to bring his gun during a battle, can he not shoot? If a soldier found out that his clothes were not dry last night during military training, can he wear it casually? No, absolutely not. If you don't bring your gun, you are not a qualified soldier. If you don't wear the prescribed clothes, you have no organization and no discipline. Everyone else is wearing military uniforms, only you are wearing strange clothes. Are you of the same mind as everyone else? Are you one with this team?" Fang Yan thought about it seriously and said to the black-faced instructor with a guilty face, "Instructor, I'm sorry, this is really my fault." "Of course it's your fault. If it's not your fault, then it's my fault?" Seeing Fang Yan apologize, the instructor was even more proud. He straightened his back and said to Fang Yan, "Although you're just a security guard of the school, you're also part of the Rosefinch team. At least you should act like a teacher, right? Do you know what a bad influence you've brought to the students? If all the students I brought wore my own clothes for military training, what would the team look like? Do you have any heroic spirit? Do you have any military demeanor?" Fang Yan felt that he was about to cry. He felt that what the instructor said made sense, and he was speechless. So Fang Yan apologized to the instructor again and said, "Instructor, I'm sorry, this is really my fault. I have no organization and no discipline, and I dress too independently." Then he said to the students who were in military training, "Students, I'm a bad role model. You must not learn from me. Since it's military training, you should act like a soldier. Don't think that your clothes are ugly. Don't think that your hats are an eyesore. Don't think that your hats cover your bangs and crush your carefully styled hair. No, a man who bleeds is the most handsome, and a woman who sweats is the most beautiful. You have abandoned the beauty of gentleness and have the beauty of toughness that is even rarer." Fang Yan felt that he had stirred up enough. He smiled awkwardly and said, "Students, you continue with your military training. Military training is very necessary. I won't disturb you anymore. The black-faced instructor's face looked better. He even knew how to joke with the students. He said with a smile, military training is indeed very necessary. It will let the students have profound knowledge and a strong body. In any case, there's no need to stay in school to be a security guard after graduation, right? The girls giggled again, as if they had heard a very funny joke. The smile on Fang Yan's face froze. Fang Yan turned to look at the black-faced instructor and said, "As a security guard, I'm not qualified. Because I dress independently, because I work carelessly, and even often skip work. But the profession of security guard is equally great. They are as great as the profession of a soldier." The black-faced instructor looked at Fang Yan with a somewhat unfriendly gaze and said, "You think security guards are as great as soldiers? Are you out of your mind?" Fang Yan shook his head and said, "Great people have said that there is no distinction between high and low professions. Why do you think that in your eyes, soldiers are greater than security guards? Soldiers are great. They are well organized and well trained. When the country needs them, they will shed their blood to defend the frontier. Soldiers are the backbone of a country. If the backbone is not broken, the country will always be prosperous and healthy. However, security guards also have their own professional characteristics. They get up early every day to guard the school gate and check the clothes of every student, so that they can focus more on their studies and not waste their precious time and energy on some insignificant things. At least for now, it's insignificant for you. If students leave early, they ask about the situation. If students are late, they give a warning. With their existence, students will understand the concept of time better. When you enter society, you will understand how valuable a good habit of punctuality is. If a student encounters a problem, they stand up in time to help. If a student encounters danger, they use their own bodies to block in front of them. Just now, the instructor mentioned Captain Kai. Captain Kai has another nickname, Baldy. Perhaps you new students don't know him yet, but you will definitely know him in the future. Because, batch after batch of students accidentally dropped their belongings in Sparrow River, it was Baldy and the others who jumped into the water to retrieve them. Some students' keys or mobile phones were thrown into the toilet pit in the toilet. "Wow!" the students exclaimed. "He jumped into the toilet pit?" The girls asked excitedly. "He didn't jump." Fang Yan said, "He was too fat, so he got stuck and couldn't jump." Chapter 507. The girls were full of disdain. What kind of people are they? They thought that Baldy jumped into the cesspit to help the students get their cell phones and keys. Fang Yan looked at them and said, "It doesn't matter whether they jumped or not, and the method of salvage is not important. What's important is that they are selflessly contributing. When you are in need, they stand up. They are on duty during the day to ensure that the students can concentrate on their studies in a quiet and peaceful campus. They are on duty at night because they are worried that something unexpected will happen. In the past, there were often hooligans who came to the school gate to make trouble, who blocked them outside. There were students with appendicitis at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, who carried them to the hospital. The work of a security guard is inconspicuous, but it also has its shining points. The work of a security guard is trivial and tedious, but it is also essential. Different professions have different nature of the profession. The black-faced instructor sneered and said, "Sure enough, you have an eloquent mouth. That's why you are so popular with girls. Do you think others are idiots?" Although the great man did say that there is no distinction between professions, is the function of a security guard and a soldier the same? The army guards the border, and a security guard is just a school. If you dare to say that we are the same as security guards, believe it or not, I will slap you in the face. Not only will I slap you, but my brothers will also slap you. You belittle us as security guards. Are you crazy? The black-faced instructor turned to look at the phalanx of students in front of him and shouted, "Is there anyone who wants to be a soldier when you grow up?" I am willing. I like to be a soldier since I was a child. I think a soldier is very masculine. Instructor, can we marry a soldier when we grow up? The black-faced instructor glanced at Fang Yen coldly and said, "Is there anyone who wants to be a security guard when you grow up?" The students laughed out loud. This question was too funny. At their age, it was the bravest time to be fearless. They were full of fantasies about life, full of confidence and hope for the future. They wanted to be successful businessmen, world-class scholars, writers, directors, stars, celebrities. At the very least, they wanted to open a flower shop and become a small owner of a coffee shop. Become a security guard? Was the instructor joking? Instructor, this question is very difficult for us to answer. We just felt that security is actually not bad, but we still don't want to be security guards. That's right, who would want to be a security guard? It's so ugly to wear such clothes to patrol every day. I've never thought of finding a boyfriend who's a security guard. If it's a gathering of friends and they ask what your boyfriend does, how are you going to tell them? Fang Yen wasn't angry when the students said that they didn't want to be security guards. When he was this age, he had never thought of becoming a security guard. Fang Yen looked at the students who were laughing and teasing and said with a warm voice, "I just want to tell you that it's not easy being a security guard. They were not paid much, but they did a lot of things. Security guards are the same as soldiers and other professions. As long as they don't break the law, don't make mistakes, and perform their duties within the scope of their profession, it's still a good job. You said that you want to be a soldier, and I support you 1,000,000 times. My best brother became a soldier and fought in the most dangerous places in the country." The black-faced instructor sneered. He didn't believe what Fang Yen said at all. "I hope that there will be no war in the country and the world will be peaceful, but this wish is difficult to achieve. Therefore, our country needs such warriors, heroes who are willing to risk their lives. I can completely understand that you don't want to be a security guard and don't want to marry a security guard. When I was the same age as you, I wanted to be an assassin, waiting for the girl next door to grow up. I wanted to be a close bodyguard for the daughter of a rich man, leveling up and killing monsters all the way to become the son-in-law of their family. I wanted to learn Chinese medicine and become a genius doctor who won the Nobel Prize in medicine. I wanted to act and become the godfather of the entertainment industry. However, when I was young, I didn't want to be a teacher or a security guard. In the end, I chose these two professions, and I'm willing to accept it. Because they are quiet, because they don't compete with others. In my current state of mind, I really need to calm myself down. I like this kind of seemingly idle work. So, I sincerely wish you all a greater future and a brighter and more brilliant future. Even geese leave a sound when they pass by, and people leave their names when they pass by. I hope your names will be known throughout the world." Claire. The girls applauded wildly. They were stirred up by Fang Yen's words, and their blood was boiling. They felt that Fang Yen understood them and understood their psychology. Everything Fang Yen said was exactly what they were thinking. They were at the best age and felt that they were the best, so they hoped that everything needed to be the best. To be a world-class assassin, to be a close bodyguard for a rich man, to be a doctor who won the Nobel Prize, to be the godfather of the entertainment industry. Wasn't this the Prince Charming of the girls' fantasy? The girls thought that this little security guard was really cute. No wonder the campus belle, Su Chi, took the initiative to invite him to drink Coke. Fang Yen smiled honestly, waved to the students, and said, "Students, I won't disturb your military training anymore. Goodbye." After that, Fang Yen turned around and was ready to leave. "Goodbye." The girls waved to Fang Yen. "Hello, Security Fang. What's your phone number? Don't go, we'll treat you to Coke later. Or you can treat us to Coke too." The students tried to persuade him to stay. They felt that talking to this little security guard, Fang Yen, was much more interesting than military training. With him around for a while, they didn't feel that the sun was scorching above their heads, nor did they feel that their legs were trembling. Time seemed to pass a little faster than usual. Su Chi squinted her eyes at Fang Yen and said aloud, "Mr. Fang, what if someone is willing to marry a security guard?" Wow, the audience was shocked. Everyone looked at Su Chi with an incredulous expression. Was this girl crazy? If it was just a misunderstanding, everyone thought that Su Qi had some feelings for Fang Yan, perhaps the two had some relationship in some way, and had some interaction. Now she shouted in public that she wanted to marry a security guard. Although she didn't say herself, but everyone knew that wasn't him? Fang Yan staggered and almost fell to the ground. He couldn't answer this question, so Fang Yan prepared to run faster. "Shut up, all of you!" The black-faced instructor roared. "What's with all the noise? Do you still look like a student? Do you still look like a military training student? Are you still in military training or asking for sex? Don't you have any shame?" The black-faced instructor pointed at Su Qi and shouted, "You, step out." Su Qi stepped out. "Run 20 laps around the field. You're not allowed to eat until you finish." The students exclaimed. With their physical strength, running 2 or 3 laps was already their limit. If they were asked to run 20 laps, would they still be alive? This was clearly corporal punishment for Su Qi. Su Qi's expression changed and she asked aloud, "Instructor, I want to ask why?" "Because I'm the instructor, and because you're a student in military training." The instructor roared at Su Qi with a black face. "Do you hear me? Run immediately. Otherwise, you'll have to stand under the sun for as long as you can. That's when you're done." "Instructor, I can't run." Su Qi said. "What? You think you're a girl? You think I can't punish you if you stand there and don't run? Let me tell you, I've seen this kind of trick many times. You're not going to run, right? Fine." The instructor turned to look at the students and roared, "You're a team, a collective. Her mistake is your collective mistake. If she doesn't want to run, then you'll have to stand with her. Cancel the intermission, cancel the dinner. When she starts running, when she finishes running, that's when you can rest and eat." The students screamed even more miserably. Their bodies were already exhausted, and they clenched their teeth and persevered just for the intermission. Now that the intermission and dinner were cancelled, how could they bear it? How was he going to let them live on? Fang Yan couldn't take another step. After a moment of hesitation, he walked back step by step. He walked in front of the instructor and said with a smile, "Instructor, isn't this physical punishment a bit too heavy? They're all girls, and their bodies might not be able to bear it. It'll be bad if something happens to them. Neither of us can get away with it, don't you think so?" With Fang Yan's persuasion, the black-faced instructor became even angrier. He shouted at Fang Yan with a stern face, "Are you the instructor or am I the instructor? Are they your soldiers or mine? Are you the only one who knows how to be gentle? Are you the only one who knows how to plead for them? Is this how you pick up female students? How can there be someone like you in Rosefinch Secondary? If I were the school's leader, I'd be the first to fire you." Fang Yan nodded and said, "Some of the students' words are inappropriate, but they don't mean it. How about, instructor, you forgive them this once?" The black-faced instructor refused. "They have to run. This really won't do. It's fine if they don't run." The black-faced instructor looked at Fang Yan and sneered. "If they don't run, you run. Don't you like to be gentle with girls? Don't you like to pretend to be a lover in front of girls? If you're so sorry for them, you should run the 20 laps for them." Fang Yan was stunned for a moment and said with a smile, "Thank you for making an exception, instructor. I'll run for them now." "This guy is sick," the black-faced instructor said mockingly. "You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.